Hello, everyone, and welcome to another DCU Daily X MCU Weekly. We have, first the news to get into, talking about a lot of course, awards to get into in regards to the Penguin, as well as Andy Muschietti refusing to shut the fudge up. Don't worry, I saved myself there. And then also talking about possible Batgirl casting in regards to an actress from Dune Prophecy, I believe. And then, of course, the big major thing is Creature Commandos, episode 7, aka the season finale of season 1. We will be getting into that later, but first we gotta, gotta wait for all the people to head in, come in, and all that good stuff. And then we're gonna get into some MCU weekly stuff, but who gives a fuck about that? Then, we're gonna be talking about some major news in regards to Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson, Welcome to Derry, and the upcoming Twisted Childhood cinematic universe, the Pooniverse, whatever we're calling it, whatever the hell it's gonna. I don't even know anymore. I just whatever. Liz is here, guys. Liz, hey, what's up?
The Pooniverse. Let's just call it the Pooniverse. Just leave it there. It's the Pooniverse. I don't agree with any of it. I think it's horrible. But hey, that's where we're at in the world. Hi guys.
Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. I saw two great movies today. Rip
That's
Roaring, ready to
good.
go, and Creature Commandos, of course. Very excited to talk to you about that as well. So looking forward to it. Hi everybody.
Hello. So first we're gonna get into a little bit of DC news. First things first, we're gonna be talking about the Penguin because the Penguin deserves even more love. It's getting
All the
nominated for
accolades,
all the
all the
things. So
awards.
here, the first we're gonna get into is Penguin has been nominated for 3 SAG Awards, which pretty much is the same thing what they were nominated for the Golden Globes, which is Colin Farrell as the Penguin, Kristen Milioti as
I hope she
Sofia
wins, man.
Gigante,
It's so deserved. I hope she wins.
and then the Penguin itself, the show itself, stunt ensemble and whatnot. So that's definitely really great. It's been nominated for, best limited series at the Art Directors Guild Awards. And what are your thoughts on all this? Is this deserving, or
It's great.
do people need to calm down a bit?
No, I think it's great. It's absolutely well deserved. I'm surprised they're not nominated for more, quite frankly, especially with the amazing makeup and hairstyling that they had done. Because again, I've said all along this is a mafioso show. It's not a it's not a comic book show. So
But
to
it does
me, it's
have the bit of the comic book
well,
like
yeah, but it's
background,
got like
so
it's
people
got
are
Sopranos
about it.
vibes, and the Sopranos, was lauded. The Sopranos had all kinds of awards. So no, I think this is wonderful. I'm really glad,
Hello, Caleb,
particularly that
by the
Kristen.
way.
What?
Saying hello to Caleb because he is in the
Oh,
chat
yes,
right
thank
now.
you.
Sorry, I
And
didn't
he's
mean to
nice.
cut you off.
Colin was phenomenal as the Penguin. He's already received an award
Buddy,
for the
show
Penguin.
me.
I'm
Buddy, show
excited for
me.
Kristen because I think Kristen needs to get an award or two because she's just phenomenal. I hope this leads to bigger and better roles
I
for her.
want this on my fucking wall. Like, I want
Yeah,
this
dude,
poster. Like,
that's
look at
sick.
this.
That's
Excellence
awesome.
in production design for a limited series. That's
100%.
pretty cool.
Well
I would
deserved.
agree. Even though
Absolutely
it's
well
kind of just
deserved.
a dingy city, but you know what? I'll take it.
You
And,
know?
outstanding performance, and then outstanding action performance by a stunt ensemble in a television series, specifically for the
Yeah,
Actors Guild Award. So,
I'm
I
for it, man.
deserving. I think all the things in regards to this are deserving. I agree. Caleb Cullen was phenomenal as Penguin. He definitely earned his Golden Globe. Speaking of his Golden Globe win, he reacted to being the third actor after Heath Ledger and Joaquin Phoenix to get a Golden Globe for playing a comic book villain. He said they're two of the most extraordinarily talented artists in film. Wow. To even have your name uttered in the same sentence as those performances, it's lovely. But I still approach it as a fan. I gotta say, this is just nice to see. You're either going to get one of two things in regards to Hollywood people. You're either going to get the most braggadocious douchebags on planet Earth, or you're gonna get someone like Keanu, where it's like, you know what, this is pretty cool. I'll take it, and that's the vibe that Colin Farrell's gonna, good
Yeah.
little Irishman right here. What would do you think he's, and kind of going off of that, I know like if Dan were here, he'd be like, oh, Heath Ledger. But like in terms of being the trifecta of Batman villains that have gotten Golden Globes, does Colin Farrell deserve to be in that trifecta?
Oh,
Or
absolutely. 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 He really made this, he took on this character once the prosthetics were on, he made it his own. Again, he worked with language coaches. He tried to really get the accent right. He did the work, man. So I'm really happy for him. I hope they get all the awards that they're nominated for, because I love that show so much, and I think it's very well deserved. So it's all good over here.
I would agree with that. Because it's just like there is sort of the whoa nature of like Heath Ledger. He got the award posthumously. He put there's still like the idea of like, oh, he died for the role, even though like everyone surrounding him has said multiple times that was
Yeah.
not true
No.
at all.
There were other circumstances
There
going
were
on
other
there too.
circumstances for that, and he didn't like go full Joker and like fucking do anything like that. It
Right.
was just
No, he had a
bad.
lot going on at the time,
He
yeah.
had a lot going on, and he just took the wrong amount and the wrong things together and resulted in that. So no,
Yeah.
it's still a bullshit thing. It's just like I feel like it mainly comes from people that hate comic book movies. They're like, oh, they're violent because look what happened to this guy, and it's like, stop. It's like
Yeah.
you're using
One
a
really
man
doesn't
who
have
died for
yeah.
your petty bullshit. Please stop.
Yeah. One doesn't have
So
much to do with the other, so
but even then, Heath Ledger did a magnificent job. Joaquin Phoenix, I know he's kind of tainted now because of Joker Folie à Deux, even though I prefer it to the first one. But we did still get a great performance. I think he gave great performances in both films.
I agree.
And I think it was deserving of both. But I think he still, he gave Joaquin gave us an amazing performance in Joker. Hopefully, he can kind of get out of this career rut he's been in for the past couple of movies, and move on to bigger and better things. But considering his next project is with Ari Aster, I don't know how that's gonna take, but we can
Yeah.
hope.
Yeah.
But the fact that Colin Farrell, broke the mold quite a bit, and not just the mold that made the prosthetics, but the mold of being the Penguin and not the Joker for a comic book villain performance is great. Like I love to see, because I've said many times, I know if you want more like comic accurate in appearance wise, you go to Danny DeVito, but it's like one, it's so different, but at the same time, it's still understood the great things that this character offered, this villain offered, how he's different from the Joker, and still, gave us this. Because
Yeah.
I mean, they all have like a similar vibe. They're all like more realistic depictions. I mean, because it wasn't like Jack Nicholson wasn't exactly going to get a fucking nomination for anything. Um, Jim Carrey wasn't going to get a nomination for anything. Mr.
Right.
Freeze, Arnold
Right.
Schwarzenegger, those like more ostentatious, crazier portrayals of villains wasn't going to get anything. But the ones that are like, as you were saying, like the more like realistic, down to earth kind of vibe,
Well,
there.
excuse me, and again, that's what, they're going for this time around. They want a more realistic, again, the Batman, the Penguin, they want a
Hmm.
more realistic vibe. They want a real world feel.
Yep.
That's, that couldn't necessarily be. Again, we've been saying since the beginning, this is a mafioso show. It's not a comic book show. They didn't want to do anything that's like cartoonish or bring out those caricatures of these villains like Danny DeVito's, for example. So I think they made the right calls, and clearly the awards are reflecting all of those decisions.
Yeah. I think I think it's all, in terms of realistic Batman stuff that seems to be getting the love, and because it's like hindrance on their weird worldview. That's not going to change anytime soon. The most
Right.
we're going to get is like Black Panther winning a couple technical awards, but that's about it. Um, but speaking of Batman, we move on to more from realistic stuff to less realistic stuff. We have Andy Muschietti being unable to shut his fucking trap.
James Gunn
This
really needs to rein this guy in. I'll tell you what.
So despite claiming he's still attached to direct The Brave and the Bold for DC Studios, filmmaker Andy Muschietti has confirmed that he and James Gunn haven't spoken for upwards of a year.
I
Now, I
wonder
know you
why.
were kind of ranting about this, Liz, so why don't you take the floor?
I
Angry
don't want
Liz
to
is
talk to
fun,
this.
Liz.
I wouldn't want to talk to this guy either. Again, I really don't know who he is. I know nothing about him. I really don't know anything about his previous projects. But the more he makes these comments, the more I want him to shut the fuck up. And I don't understand why James Gunn isn't, putting a muzzle on him at this point, because he's just saying stupid shit to try and get his 15 minutes. And I'm pretty sick of him already. So he needs to pipe down already. Like,
Yeah, I mean
ridiculous. You're
it
not making any friends right now, buddy.
yeah, he
You
says
know,
in the article, unfortunately I can't pull it up because that's like
it's all right.
paywall bullshit, but he was like, yeah, we talked about story concepts for a little bit, but we haven't talked in over a year. It's like, why
Okay.
would you say that? Why would you
That-
say that?
That's it's
Like,
just, it's all attention. It's all to get attention. That's all it is.
I feel
He's having
like
like a tantrum.
I agree, Caleb. Shushy, Andy, shushy. So I don't know. It's just like the idea, maybe I don't know. It was kind of at first good PR. He's like, okay, like I'm the director. I'm saying DCU Batman is not going to be Robert Pattinson. Okay, fine. They're kind of dry, so he said that he's addressing the Batman
And that's
rumors and
fine.
whatnot, and that's
He's trying to
cool.
draw a line
And
in the
then he
sand.
was
Great.
trying to take away from like Matt Reeves's like controversy of not being able to, finish the script and all that. Okay, fine. And then he was talking about, well, I've talked about story concepts, I've talked about this, I've talked about that. So it's like things are being talked about. So it's like, okay,
Yeah,
cool. And now he's going too far. I think now he's
I
like,
agree.
oh, I haven't talked to the guy. It's like that now you're
He's
do
airing
you
out dirty
want
laundry is what he's doing. He's
do you
airing out dirty
want
laundry.
do you want the sniper to go from Matt Reeves to you? Is that
Right.
really the Deadshot? I guess going from him to you, because that's what you're kind of like. Are you trying to? Is this like a just a braggadocious douchebag kind of thing, or is it
Yeah, it's
like,
what it seems
or is
like.
he like trying to take the L so that Matt Reeves can like get a break from death threats for this today?
I mean, that's fine if that's his motivation, but he's going about it the wrong way, in my opinion. And again, he needs to take a seat for a beat and rethink his strategy here, because right now he just looks like a brat, in my opinion.
Yeah. It doesn't look right, it doesn't feel right, and it's just like, I don't know. But the only thing I could like, I want to be optimistic, like, oh, he's just doing this so that to take the eyes off Matt Reeves. But I could also believe that comic book movie has never been very good with like, they're bordering on tabloid kind of crap. So it's entirely possible that this is bullshit. But whatever it is, I just think that it's, you know, just a little off the way he said it.
He's just trying to get attention. That's how it comes off to me.
Um, but whatever it is, he was also, um, but he did double down in terms of Brave and the Bold. He said there are good intentions for now. The studio wants to do the film with me, and I want to do it as well. We are talking about ideas and about the story and the tone, which was kind of talked about yesterday. But it's like, well, which one is it? Are you talking about the movie with the studio, or are you not talking about the movie with James Gunn? Like, I understand he's like the CEO. Maybe you're not going to go directly to him, but it's
Right.
like, then who the fuck are you talking to? The writer? Are you talking about to Peter Safran? Like, this is the thing that's like confusing me. This is like who are you talking to?
Well, and
Are you?
also, okay, so if you haven't talked to him a year, is he
Mhm.
avoiding your calls? Have you reached out to, like, are you not getting emails back from him? Like, what does that mean? Does it just mean you've both kind of gone your separate ways and haven't thought to connect with one another? Or were you trying to engage with him and James didn't want to talk to you? Like,
Or
it's
was
so
James
vague.
just busy? Like,
But
he
that
is
but
a
again,
busy man.
he's being so vague, which to me only
Doesn't
means
help.
you're just saying shit to get attention. He's just
It
I'm
just
telling you, the more I see from this guy, the more I dislike him. I just don't understand what
I
his
mean,
goal is here.
I like Andy Muschietti is I mean, he directed the two It movies. He directed this movie Mama, like that was his first director. It was his directorial
Okay,
debut,
I know
which I
Mama.
heard
Yeah,
wasn't
okay.
that great. The It movies, and then he did The Flash. So those are his four movies. So
Okay.
I don't know how
And now
I
he's doing
never
the It
liked
series.
I
Yeah.
will say I never liked him as the Batman director, like Batman Brave and the Bold director, because it just maybe it was just James Gunn being like, okay, you got fucked over with the Flash, a lot of studio meddling. That movie was DOA. Here, have another
Yeah.
chance with Batman. But it's like I feel that's going about it the wrong way because it's like Batman shouldn't be the movie you give pity points to, you know?
Well, but
Like
also, even if that is the case, this is how you thank James Gunn for giving you the
if that is
opportunity.
the
This is
case,
how
yeah,
you
if that
handle
is the
it. If that's
case.
the case, it's again, he needs to shut up and just focus on the project at hand.
Yeah, I
But
think he just needs to
oh
work
well.
on he needs to work with the writer, whoever it is. He needs to do that and then just kind of stop talking. Just like with Zachary Levi, just stop
Yeah.
talking.
Stop talking,
Just
gang.
stop talking.
But
Um,
anyway, let's move along.
but in terms of the last of the DC news, Jessica Barden, who is in Dune Prophecy, she said, she wanted to play Batgirl, throw her hand in the ring, throw her hat in the ring.
Yeah.
Have you watched Dune Prophecy?
I've not, it's on my list. I'll get to it eventually. I did see their panel at Comic-Con, so I did hear from her there about her experience. She's really loving being in Dune Prophecy. So, I mean, good for her if she gets the opportunity. I'm sure she's more than capable of taking on the role. She doesn't do anything very physical in Dune Prophecy, but it's she's young and I don't see why not with some proper training get in the action. Well, go for it.
Yeah,
I'm all
I
for it.
mean, I've apparently seen her in The Lobster because I remember watching The Lobster, and that
Oh,
was
that's right. Yep. Okay. I
a
saw The Lobster
good
too. Yep.
movie. I think she might be a little bit too old though, because you won't be able to see it in this picture right here, but apparently she's 32.
Okay.
And I think that might be a little bit too old for who they want for Batgirl, because I would
Okay.
imagine, I mean, maybe she could pull off somebody way younger, like in her early 20s. I know Timothy Chalamet's like in his late 20s and still looks like a fucking 16-year-old. So, there's that. But
Yeah.
I think even then, like in terms of longevity of the franchise, I don't think she would fit, but like if she's a good enough actress and she could do it, then and she could still pull off like early 20s, then
Yeah.
cool. Um I hope I hope she's good in Dune Prophecy. Again, I haven't seen it either, so I don't really know. Like, she was apparently in this movie I saw 10 years ago, so that's the only thing I
Yeah.
know of in regards to that. Um, but yeah, that's kind of it. Not nothing to really majorly talk about. But I do hope whoever plays her, I hope we get a good Batgirl. I know Sophia Lillis was another name that people have wanted for a while, and she's kind of around the same age. So, I just think in terms of Batgirl, I think they should be at the very most like early 20s, like 22, 23. Since this Batman will probably be mid to late 30s or early 40s. So I just think that that's how my mind is working. That's how um, I think that they're going to be doing it, like continuity wise. Again, I'm the big fucking nerd here, so I'm going to be, fucking thinking about continuity and shit like that. So, you know,
All good.
um, but
The question
obviously
is she going to be tall enough? That's always
that
me.
is that is
I
the
mean,
big.
we talk about that with men all the time. Does height matter for female actors and actresses? I mean, I don't.
I think shorter the better for women.
Okay.
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Um, I'm just kidding. That was a joke, guys. That was a joke. Um, so, but this isn't what you want to see, guys. You don't want to see news. Who gives a fuck about news? Who gives a fuck about Andy Muschietti being a dinghole?
Not
You
me.
guys want to see Creature Commandos. You guys want to talk about some Creature Commandos. Thanks, Dan. So it is official. The first DCU project is over. What a journey we've gone through to get to this point. And we're going to be talking spoilers, so just
Yep.
keep that in mind, guys. Spoilers. Hold on. I'm getting the banner for the spoilers. So there we go. So spoiler warning if you fucking haven't watched it yet.
You had all day.
It's 11:20. Like, what the fuck are you doing with your life?
You had
What do you have
all
a
day.
job? What are you getting money to fucking survive? Loser. But let's finally talk Creature Commandos. So Creature Commandos, that season finale. Was it okay? I'm just gonna hand this off to you because I'm really curious to know your thoughts. I was kind of talking about it backstage, but so overall as an episode, just ignore the time because everybody here knows your thoughts on the time. We know your thoughts. It's too short. We know it's too short.
It's too short.
Time.
It's too short.
But ignoring the time part, what did you think of this episode? Was it a good episode? Was it a good season finale, or did it disappoint?
It didn't feel like a season finale, to be perfectly honest with you. There was that shocking moment, of course, with the wrap up, but John and I talked about this before the show, and the whole time I was waiting for something to happen with Nina's character. The whole series. I felt like they were setting her up to do, like, once she's finally in the water, she's gonna blow our minds and she's gonna be the ultimate fighter, or the most stealthy, swimmer or something. And for them to do her like that, I was like, oh, okay, well, she was my least liked, like my least favorite character the entire season, and now she's just gone. Like, okay. But I mean, I don't know. I still love the show. I'm pumped that my boy G.I. Robot has returned.
Is now yoked.
Bigger and better than ever. Let's kill all the Nazis. I'm for it. You guys know I'm thrilled Alana's gone. Psh, bye. But
bullet to the head.
Yeah, I mean, I want more. I'm sorry, I know you don't want to hear it, but I do. I want more. I can't wait for season 2. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with that. I'm excited for the new characters that they're eventually going to add, because James Gunn is really doing me a solid and educating me here on the characters. So that's been really cool.
Yeah, he's bringing in all these weird characters.
Yeah, so I'm loving that. I'm really looking forward to that. Yeah.
But yeah, I think overall, I do think this was a good episode, but I kind of have the same feeling a little bit where it was like it didn't feel as impactful. And I was saying this, I'm going to repeat myself to the audience here, but yeah. Okay, Hugo. Thank you. Hi, BRB. Going to go watch the episode.
It's all good. We'll be back in 5
Caleb,
minutes.
The princess's death was mind blowing. Thank you, guys. Thank you for that joke, Caleb. But overall, I think what they should have done is they should have switched Nina Mazursky's backstory with somebody else, preferably Frankenstein.
And I think that makes perfect sense because you had said that before.
Yes, I said that before.
And Frankenstein finally sees the bride. This whole season he was trying to get to her. He finally gets to her. So that would have made absolutely perfect sense.
That would have made perfect sense.
That way. Yeah.
And the thing is, I'm just like, okay, I'm a guy. I don't mean to sound like an asshole, but like I did go to school for this shit. Like,
are you gonna mansplain us, John? Are you gonna mansplain us?
I have a degree in screenwriting. It means jack shit when James Gunn's been like writing fucking movies for the past like 2 decades. I know that means nothing, and that means everything to him.
Nobody's perfect. Hey,
but that's how it is.
Feedback every now and again.
And he wasn't the showrunner. Dean Lorey was, and he is the showrunner for Harley Quinn. So, but I think like and we're going back to another James Gunn project. Let's go back to the Suicide Squad with Polka Dot Man. Polka Dot Man, it's because they do like the thing in the beginning, like, oh, this character is like this to build it up and who we know and all that shit. The reason like Polka Dot Man and then eventually his death worked is because we knew from the beginning that okay, his mother experimented on his toxic mother experimented on him to make a superhero, and he was stuck with this debilitating disease and he had to become a villain to survive and all this other shit. So we knew that from the beginning. So throughout like the course of the movie, he does certain things like that are questionable because that's the whole thing with Suicide Squad. It's like they're likable, but they're not relatable, you know? So he does like questionable things, but like he's like trying his best, do all this other stuff like with all these other characters. And then by the end, where he's like, I finally did it. I'm gonna be a superhero. And then he fucking dies. And it's funny. Like they do that for comedy. And I think that works. But then when Ratcatcher's like like has his costume in her hands, you feel an immense sadness because this is a character you cared about because you knew his struggles as a person. He had this disease, he had a toxic mother who didn't love him. She just wanted to experiment on him. She just wanted to create superheroes. We knew all of this for a while, which made the death more impactful. The fact that we knew Nina Mazursky's backstory in the episode where she dies makes it feel less impactful because then it's like,
100%.
oh, her father dies, she gets taken away, but oh, she also dies. It's like now I just don't feel anything for this character. Like I liked her. I think Zoe Chow did do a good job. She was trying to like be that voice of reason character and all that. And I do believe that the reason that James Gunn did this to kill her off, I mean, it's entirely possible they could bring her back because in comic books, nobody stays dead.
Sure.
But if we're going like, I mean, G.I. Robot got brought back. So, you know, Nina Mazursky can be brought back, and she's more of like a Creature Commando mainstay. So, you know, whatever it is the case, but let's say she's dead. I understand what James Gunn was doing because everybody was comparing her to Ratcatcher 2, and Ratcatcher 2 was like this weird, shy character, but endlessly likable. She had the thing with like Bloodsport, where it was like, oh, you remind me of my daughter. Oh, she had the flashbacks to her dad, all that stuff. Again, building up the character. But then by the end, oh no, she's actually on full power. She's bringing out the rats. She fucking kills Starro the Conqueror, all this shit. And it turns out she's like this super duper, super powered thing. So that's what a lot of people were expecting. Liz, you said this, where it's like, oh, she was going to get in the water.
I thought that's where we were going. I thought they were kind of keeping her on the bench for a reason
and all that shit. And then, but no, it seems like I feel like James Gunn was a little bit too focused on subverting expectations of like the Ratcatcher 2 analog than doing something interesting with the character, which felt kind of Rian Johnson-esque. I hate to say that because James Gunn is a way better director and writer than Rian Johnson, but that's beside the point.
Hi, Antonio. Hi, Enterprising. Hi, Jamie.
Hello, guys. But so it's like, again, win some, lose some. James Gunn isn't perfect. So, you know, I just feel like because of that, like he wanted to like, oh, I don't want to make her the Ratcatcher 2 thing, so she's not exactly all powerful and I'm gonna kill her. So it's like, okay, that kind of sucks, but we did get the payoff for you know, Alana being a bitch, and you know, once she gets a bullet, and then I'm like, oh, Liz will be very happy. That was the first thing I thought of. I'm like, once fucking
I surely was.
I can imagine like in your house, you're like fucking. I'm like, I couldn't do that because
I'm laying there. I'm like, you know what? It's about damn time.
It's about damn time.
Wrap it up.
But I liked how it showed that the bride isn't just brute strength; she's actually very intelligent. So I liked that as well.
Yeah, well, Mr. Carter right here just said Nina is a better plot device to humanize the bride than being her own standalone character. So in that regard, I completely agree. But again, what John is saying, I think would have worked much better in the season if her backstory was revealed to us much earlier, so we could have more of an understanding of why she was the way that she was throughout the season. So I completely agree with both Mr. Carter 22.
Yeah, and I hate it when. And especially, it's like, I don't think that James Gunn meant this in any sort of malice way, but it is a bit of an ongoing thing where female characters are used as plot devices, like America Chavez in Multiverse of Madness, Sophia Lillis's character in Honor Among Thieves, the Dungeons and Dragons movie, and then Nina Mazursky here. She was just there to like humanize the bride. So I fully agree with that. I definitely very well put, Mr. Carter. So it's and that happens to female characters a lot, and I don't think it's done
Happened
out
in
of
the Hunger
malice.
Games. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, we
Yeah,
see it
like
all the
Rue
time.
a little bit. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's it's I don't again I don't think any of this is out of like hatred of women or anything like that, and this is a little bit too heavy of a
Well,
discussion, and I'll start away
people care
quickly.
more when women die than when men die, because men, we're, as a society, we're trained, the men are the soldiers, the men are the protectors, they have a job to do, they know what's at stake when they take these risks, and they enlist and they sign up, whereas the women are always kind of viewed as a more, more innocent, more, even no matter what we're doing, if we're shooting off machine guns, if we're wielding a machete, it doesn't matter, we're still viewed as innocent,
Yeah,
because the men are, that's your job, you're supposed to be out
yeah,
there on the
which is
front lines, you're
also
supposed to
very
make those
problematic in and of
sacrifices.
itself.
A
But
100%,
again, we're getting
exactly.
into a little bit too deep of a discussion. I was just saying, like, it's kind of a shame that that's the case, but I don't think
Yeah.
that that was like intentional from James Gunn. He's like, fuck women or anything like that. I don't think that
No,
was the
no, no,
case.
I don't think
I
so.
just
Yeah.
think I do hope that they bring her back, because I do remember the bride saying she was the best friend I have. So she didn't say had. She said have. So
That's fair.
maybe
Yeah.
they have a chance to bring her back. I know her father's dead, so he can't bring her back, but like I'm sure there's some genius
I mean, they've got the
fucking
technology, for goodness sake.
get Mr. Terrific in here. He's gonna revive her and all that shit.
Well,
So
Dr. Phosphorus is not, not an idiot, and they've got
yeah,
the
that's
technology
true.
with GI Robot. I mean, who knows? We'll see what happens. We have to
So
wait for season 2, that's all.
that part was kind of a shame, but I do like they paid this stuff off with Weasel and how he sees Alana as the little girl that he tried to save. That was cute. Dr. Phosphorus kind of getting sidelined again, but I liked how, he was like going through the wall. He figured out the Clayface thing,
Yep.
which, by the way, we were wrong about. We were half right. Clayface was on
We knew
Alana's side,
Clayface was coming up, yeah.
not as Alana, but on her side. So we were right, and I was correct in terms of the bride getting her own team. Now, I don't think we're going to get Agents of Shade, but
Okay.
it seems like she's going to be the head of the Creature Commandos, which it is like in the comics. It's just I don't think we're getting Shade. But it seems like the two characters that were in the background, that vampire chick Nosferatu, which I didn't know, I had to look it up, and then Callus, which was a mummy character, and then of course got to talk about our boy King Shark, not this King Shark, but this King Shark. Our boy in the, so again, kind of James Gunn slowly drip feeding us what is canon from the Suicide Squad, and to a lesser extent the first season of Peacemaker. So it seems like that what we know of is that Starro was in Cordo Maltese and King Shark was there. That's all we've gotten from the Suicide. That is officially, at least we think so, canon. So as also someone who liked the Suicide Squad, were you very delighted to see King Shark at the end of the episode?
Yeah, I really like that character. He's just goofy and dare I say lovable. So
And
so yeah, so I'm excited to
that was
see what
great.
they do with him in
Like,
this iteration. Yeah, for sure.
that was a lot of fun to see him, and it makes sense. He's a creature commandos. So we're getting him, and that's great. Love to see it. Num num. Bird, me with dumb friends. Anyway, also hello Antonio. But thank you guys for coming in. Glad to see you. It's been going up. But yeah, and apparently I didn't know this until I was going through the links, because it's funny because I was literally just talking about him. Sly Stallone did not reprise his role as King Shark here, but it was in fact the Batman that eats nachos himself. Diedrich Bader voiced King Shark in Creature Commandos. he previously voiced Batman in Brave and the Bold and Harley Quinn, and Dietrich Bader is goated. He is also Two-Face in Cape Crusader, and as we all know,
Right.
Harvey Dent is a dick. Um,
Sure is.
but like, because I was literally just talking about this with a buddy of mine. I was like, you have Dietrich Bader as part of your cast, and you're like, oh, we need a Batman. It's like the man is right there. No, let's get Hamish Linklater. Fuck you. You have Dietrich Bader, one of the best voice actors. I would say top three. I would say Kevin Conroy, Bruce Greenwood, and Dietrich Bader are top
He
three,
does have
most
an
definitely.
incredible voice. Yeah.
Yeah, he's amazing. Bader is amazing, and he's like, you know, um, he's legend. But it was. I hope that we get him in this upcoming season. No offense to Sly, we love Sly, but Dietrich Bader is goated, or should I say, Shark did. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Anyway,
Sure. Sure does. You got it.
but yeah, I liked how. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm covering the basis of this entire episode, but they definitely showed that Clayface is dead. Like he is fucking dead. Because I thought what they were gonna do, like something that like, I mean, it's entirely possible that Amanda Waller did this like off screen, and they could definitely do this. They like gather his clay
Collect
and
it. Yeah.
like
Collect him
and
up.
like and then like collect him
Scoop
and then
him up
try to
and
like resurrect
reform.
him
Yeah.
and then use him for the Creature Commandos. That's what I thought they were gonna do, but
Hey,
we
you
didn't
never know.
see it. And we so that
That could
might
be
be something
season
we should do.
3.
Unlikely, but I would like to see it. But again, there's been like 7 or 8 clay faces in the DC universe, so it's like they could just pick another one. It's fine. Well, we know that Alan Tudyk won't be in the Mike Flanagan version, so shame, but
Wah, wah.
it's fine. Um, but yeah, overall, really good episode. I'm just thinking of anything else.
Again,
Um,
it didn't feel like a season finale to me.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Um, but again, was it because it was too short? Was it because they gave us an end credit scene with Frankenstein? I mean, there's a couple different things, but it wasn't. I feel like they didn't really leave us on like a cliffhanger. I think that's a big
hmm
part of it for me. But again, I love the show. I can't get enough of the show.
yeah.
So I'm gonna
I feel
be
like this was a
nipping in towards
case
that.
of like oh, you're granted however many episodes, and we're gonna split that into 2 seasons. That's the feeling I get
Yeah,
from
that's good. Like
this.
just to kind of see how it goes the first time around. Yeah, that's
Because that's what happened with Velma, because everyone was confused. Why the fuck did this piece of shit show get fucking 2 seasons? And they're like, well, it was an episode count. They got greenlit for 2 seasons, and it was just 20 episodes over the court. And they were like, let's split this into 2 seasons.
yeah.
And it wasn't like, but yeah, in terms of season 2, it seems like we're getting. Also, by the way, some good Easter eggs here. We got Bloodhaven, Metropolis, Star City, Nightwing, Superman, Green Arrow, getting some much needed lovin', and then Frank Grillo, almost starting World War III for pussy. I mean, who wouldn't? Like, right? But I like how they make that joke at the end. But by the way, they slide everything under the rug. Like the bride kills a leader of a country and like nothing happens. They're like, oh, it turns out we were right from the beginning. Cool,
Yeah.
thanks. And John Economist is like, well, he almost destroyed the world for Putang. What an idiot, am I right? And then, we lead into the Creature Commandos thing, which was pretty funny, but
Yeah. Yeah,
um
I liked how she killed her and then she was like she's like, "Yeah, we should probably go." Like it's like, "Okay." Like yeah,
yeah.
they just kind of
I'm just curious with how like how he's gonna become the director of Argus, because he mentioned that, and I thought
yeah.
it was like, oh, Amanda Waller is gonna get fucking arrested by the end of this because she almost starts World War III with Pokolistan, but nope, that doesn't happen. So I guess maybe the events of Superman will lead into that, because it seems
Or
like
Peacemaker season 2 or Creature Commander season 2. Like we've got a long ways until we get to the Waller series anyway. So there's definitely room for that to happen at some point.
yeah, I also like they reference fucking Ghost Rider, which is going the ongoing Arrowverse thing. of referencing Marvel characters because they mentioned Howard the Duck, the Hulk, and Spider-Man in the Arrowverse. So that was funny. I was like, oh shit, they actually continue to do that. That's great. Yeah. So we got a lot of, really great Easter eggs, which, kind of going through and, we're so in terms of season 2, um, it seems like we're going to be getting more like I don't want to say comic accurate like Creature Commandos because like it's not a subsidiary of Shade, but it's like oh the Bride is going to be in control.
Right.
It's not going to just be Suicide Squad again, well, like it kind of was at the beginning. So we're going to be, you know, it's going to be more along those lines, which I'm happy about because we're not just getting Suicide Squad 2.0, which is cool for me. I don't know if that's something you're into or
No, I'm totally fine with that.
yeah. But yeah, this is looks I hope we get Warren Griffiths and Vincent Velcoro in season 2 because those are Creature Commando mainstays in the comics. Warren Griffiths is a werewolf and Vincent Velcoro is a vampire, although I wouldn't mind seeing Andrew Bennett, who is kind of like
Oh, thank you, AJ.
um who's kind of like I don't want to say Morbius because the name Morbius has been ruined, but like he's kind of the DC version of Morbius, a vampire, but he fights for good type character, and then he has like a lot of like dark shit. He's also known as I Vampire. I think it would be cool if they inserted him here. Resurrection Man could be a really cool character to bring in. Mitch Shelley, because that's a character that can feed into like the whole Suicide Squad thing because it's a character that will always stay here because Resurrection Man is a character every time he dies he gets a new superpower and he can never truly die, like so he's like he dies and then he immediately comes back. He's kind of like Captain Jack Harkness but with superpowers a little bit for all you Doctor Who fans out there.
Oh, jeez.
What the fuck does
Let's
that
not go
even
there.
mean?
But here, let's
Anyway.
talk about AJ's comment because he
Yeah,
feels,
sure.
he feels that Waller gets demoted or fired. Remember, she took an Ellen Peacemaker. That's why Flag is in charge in Superman. So she's probably on trial in her show. Which, yeah, we speculated as much. When she's in prison, I would imagine there's the trials going on during that time, and that's how her show is going to play out. But again, we're trying to determine which iteration of Waller, which show, which film is what ultimately lands her in jail. So it'll be interesting to see how all of that unfolds.
Yeah.
But
But
definitely a good
yes,
point.
thank you for your super chat. I don't know if he's going to be in charge in Superman, but it's because I mean, at the end of this season, John Economos says to the Bride, Amanda Waller gifted you this as a thank you. So it seems like Amanda Waller is still in
So
charge.
yeah,
At
still in
least
charge at the time. Yeah.
so I think maybe during the events of Superman or during the events of Peacemaker, are we going to finally see, him become the director of Argus, and then where it's going to lead into the events of Waller, which I think is going to be a prison show because that seems like the thing that James Gunn was presenting us way back when all these
Yeah.
projects were announced. So maybe yeah, maybe it is a courtroom drama. Maybe it's like, all right, clearly Marvel can't do courtroom shit. Let's have DC try to do it. Um, so well, in terms of like MCU, because the Daredevil Netflix isn't canon yet. So, well, Netflix knows what they're doing, MCU doesn't, but that's beside the point. But AJ, thank you for the super chat. We all very much appreciate it. Um, but Pacerland 317, I'm thinking some of these characters will be in Peacemaker too. I could definitely see Bride or Frank. I can't really see Frankenstein. Um, Again, just bro, you need to fucking stop being a goddamn fucking simp. Like this is just pathetic. I mean, all simps are pathetic, but that's beside the point. It's just like, bro, like,
No means no, man.
I
No
mean,
means no.
but again, I liked that was another thing. I think that was a subversion done well because you think Frankenstein is going to come in, be like, wait, 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 before you fucking do anything, you're doing something wrong because Rick Flag sent me. This is a whole big misunderstanding. No, none of that. She's just like, pow, bye, fuck you, and off we go. And nope, they're gonna continue on with the mission. I'm like, okay, that was a good subversion. The Nina
Yeah,
Mazursky stuff wasn't, but like that was a good subversion. So I'll take
right.
that. Um, but yeah, that was definitely a very cool sort of thing going on. But yeah, I think I'm very excited for season 2. Like this wasn't like if I gave season 1 anything, I'd be like maybe like a 7.5 out of 10. It's a little bit better than the Suicide Squad, but not as good, I feel like, as it could have been. But I think it was overall great. It was great seeing GI Robot again. Great seeing King Shark. Great seeing yeah, I just love how Weasel survived again. Like I feel like it'd be funny if the show ended with like all creature commandos dying, but Weasel survives, just like with the Suicide Squad. It would be so dumb, but it would be so funny. Uh, but uh, but yeah. Anything else in regards? Do you have any predictions for season 2?
No. Well, I mean, the Frankenstein the Bride thing is going to be ongoing for sure. I'll
Mm-hmm.
be interested to see how much Rick Flag Sr. is in it now that, we kind of had this controversy and, the bride killed his lady. But we'll see. I'm just excited for the new characters, and hopefully the episodes are longer than 22 minutes. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes, I hope it's like 30 to 35 minutes. That would be a good. I don't think it should be 45 to an hour. That's just way too long. I think 30
Yeah.
to 35 would be good. But yeah,
Yeah.
as I was mentioning before, these are going to be the Creature Commandos in season 2, it seems like.
GI Robot.
GI Robot now with his yoked form. This isn't even my final form. Anyway,
It wasn't
Callus, who
me.
is in the comics, so that was another thing. Nosferatu, who seems like a vampiress kind of character. Very perfect timing on that, James. Oh, Nosferatu's coming out. Well, I'm going to set up this character for season 2 of Creature Commandos.
Yeah.
Weasel, Dr. Octopus, the Bride coming back. GI Robot kind of coming back, and then King Shark coming back from the Suicide Squad, not season 1. So that's great to see. And in terms of, I've already mentioned characters that I'd like to see Resurrection Man. I'd like to see Vincent Velcoro or Andrew Bennett. But I would also like to see Warren Griffiths as well. Some of those, but we are getting Callus, so that's great. We are getting the Mummy. Awesome. Love to see it. Solomon Grundy would be an Etrigan the Demon could be good. I think he might be a little bit too supernatural though. Solomon Grundy could be good. Giganta. They've already used a Wonder Woman villain already. Let's not.
Okay.
And I will say
But
that
I mean, it would make sense because they've got the whole Themyscira aspect for this season, so it would make sense that they're still trying to kind of pull in characters from that world, and
yeah.
because they still do
Well,
have
she's
the
not
Sons of
Themysciran. She's
Themyscira.
just she's just a scientist who becomes the 50-foot woman essentially.
Okay.
But she's mainly a Wonder Woman villain. But I also did, yeah, that was another thing I didn't like. Oh yeah, Cersei was right. She was, like I just hate the idea of like, oh, a villain becoming the good guy. It's like, can we stop with this? Like, I know Thanos
Well,
started
she wasn't
something with
necessarily the good guy because she was still like killing people and tearing shit up, but just she was right. That's all.
yeah, I just
She
don't
just
like that.
she went
Like, oh,
about
she
getting her
wanted,
point
she's like,
across
I'm
in a bad
trying to
way.
save you guys. Like, why are we doing this with villains? Stop.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, what are your guys' thoughts on this? Hi Fiona. My introverted reviews. I hope Frankenstein accepts reality next season. I feel like the Stalker storyline is going to grow all that after next season. I agree. I think
Totally agree.
it's like I feel like I hope there's some sort of realization with this, and bro just needs to go to therapy. I think he just gets too attached to people around him.
No
He's
means
like,
no,
where
folks.
he's like,
No
oh
means
yes,
no.
my friend Richard Flagg. I call him Rick. It's like, like, bro, come on. Like, I like David Harbour too, and he's gonna be like the
Yes,
goated
he's
character of
great.
I almost said Thunderbirds, Jesus Christ. Thunderbolts. Um, so I mean, we know that, but I hope he gets. I just like Creature Commandos is just like it really buys into like what I like. It's just like the weird, mystical, supernatural, fucked up kind of shit of the DC universe that nobody's really tapped into that much. I'm excited for Swamp Thing, you know, because that like brings in like that whole side. And I mean, the show is great, and I hope we like get something along those lines. But
Yeah.
yeah, I know you're not as familiar with DC characters, so I can't ask like, who would you want to see in season 2?
Well, I
But
mean, just the little bits that I've heard here and there, I would be interested to see if another iteration of Clayface comes back. Gigantra sounds cool to me. But again, I don't know enough about her.
right,
I'm definitely a fan of the fact that it's been pretty equal as far as the male to female ratio, so I hope we stick with
right.
that as well. So yeah, I'm
Well, let's just
I'm
hope
looking
they're not
forward to it.
used as plot
I just
devices
want
in
the
season
episodes
2.
to be longer. That's what I want. That's what I
Yeah,
care about.
like 28 minutes for the season. That should have been the entire. It shouldn't have just
Right.
been,
Right.
you know, just that.
Well,
Right.
again, I think they were also kind of trying to hedge their bets and see if it was going to play well with fans first. So maybe they'll give us a little more the next time around.
Possibly. But yeah, I just want to see those classic monsters like it is. And that's not me just being like, oh, it needs to be like the comics. It's just like, I just think that's cool. Like having a fucking vampire. Like,
Yeah.
I know Nosferatu is like bringing in that vampire vibe. But I mean, yeah, they could bring in like any sorts of villains like Killer Croc. I just don't want characters that are too villainous. Because like the Bride is an anti-hero. Dr. Phosphorus is mainly a villain. Weasel is there. He's not really a villain or a hero or an anti-hero. He's just kind of
He's
like,
misunderstood, man.
yeah, he's misunderstood.
Misunderstood.
Callus and like all these other characters and King Shark, they're like kind of on the like, I don't want straight up villains. I mean, Killer Croc can be seen as misunderstood. Same with like Solomon Grundy. But I don't know. I just don't want like, oh, let's bring in like full on villains, because then I feel like that's gonna again
Very
bring
What's
in like
up?
the Suicide
What's up,
Squad
bitches?
debate
Eat a dick,
kind of
John. Hello,
Honka,
Liz. How
honka.
are you doing today?
thing. All
Hi
right,
there,
that's for
Dan.
that. Eat a dick.
Oh
Fuck
my
you.
goodness.
What are you doing? That's not a good move. That's
Rude.
not a good move. I just stopped by to say that I think Killer Croc should just move over from the DCEU because I like my Killer Croc just the way they had it there. I love the fact that he watches BET and you know he was just
That was
one of
so
those
fucking
underrated
stupid.
personalities.
It's just like let's make Killer Croc generic black guy. That's really the
I
best way
loved
to
it.
go.
It was great.
It's fucking stupid.
I'm a little late to the party, but I'm so glad that we are talking about all kinds of goodness from Creature Commandos because man, that season finale was just a lot of stuff going on. So much
No,
stuff happening.
Croc didn't get killed. He was at the end. He was watching BET because he got a TV in his cell. So that was the whole joke. Because he's just black guy, but covered in scales. Like that was the joke. That was
I know that was the joke. I'm just you
and it
know
was
like
a
the, or
fucking
like the
stupid joke.
or like the
Because Waylon
pyrokinetic
Jones is a way more
homeboy.
interesting character than
I'm
black guy
just
covered in scales.
dude. I'm not saying that movie was the best thing ever. It did win an Oscar, but you know like let that be what that you know whatever it might be. But
yeah, so
with that in mind,
so did Roberto Benigni, and he didn't fucking deserve it. So it's like, come on.
Sheesh.
yeah.
Shots
Well,
fired.
wow.
Yeah, fuck Roberto Benigni. Fuck that guy.
Oh, there's another quote we've got. All right.
Yeah, let me add that in there. What is that? Fuck Roberto Benigni. Fuck that
Yeah.
guy. Yeah. By the way, I saw that there was a super chat from AJ. Thank you so much for that super chat. Yeah, the Waller story. It's interesting, like you guys were discussing earlier, how that's going to continue moving forward. I mean, Pakistan definitely feels like it's involved in Superman's story. Obviously, it's part of Creature Commandos. Maybe like the reason why Superman gets arrested in you know the movie is because he needs to be like extradited for something that they blame him for that happens in Pakistan. That's one theory I'm coming up with now. You know, that would explain why there's a bunch of private metahumans who maybe like is the metahuman army that Lex Luthor, you know, has basically lent
Maybe.
a loan to the U.S. government, and they're working with the military to arrest Superman. That would be that could work. I wouldn't mind it. You know what? It did create honka honka. I personally like the Suicide Squad. You know, with Big Willie, I loved it. It was great. It was a fun movie.
It was makeup and hairstyling is what
Yeah.
it won for. You know, a walking clussy and a guy with scales. That's the thing that won the Oscar. Not, you know, these ornate alien races from Star Trek Beyond, because the world isn't fair. The world only makes sense if you force it
I'll be
to.
honest with you. I feel like Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, kind of underdid things on the alien design side of things.
They did,
especially-
but remember the last one
was-
wasn't directed by J.J. Abrams. It was directed by Justin
Well,
Lin.
no, Beyond was fun. I still think like the movie franchise didn't quite manage to achieve.
No, it didn't. It
hit
was
the
like
highs of-
like the fucking alien races on a TV show with the budget of a ham sandwich looked better, and so it's like, guys, what are we doing?
why not lean into that? That's like you've got the budget for it. Like, you know how much the
Klingons
creators
looked like
of the
shit
shows
in Star
would
Trek
have.
Into Darkness, by the way, and they looked even worse in Star Trek Discovery. So
Hey,
good old
for the
STD.
record, they have kind of retconned the design to be close. It's not exactly the way it used to be back in the day, but it is closer to the classic look of the Klingons now. So, but yes, the first season of Discovery was.
We saw
weird.
Klingon titty in STD. I don't want to fucking see that shit. Like, why do we need to see that? That's disgusting. I don't want to see that.
Oh, I'm not used to being down here. Oh, there we go. That's better.
Dan's a bottom, ladies and gents. He just doesn't want to reveal it just yet.
Yeah, that's right. Caleb, I do want beef. You want beef? Let's go get some ramen. Maybe you're a fan of pho. We'll just go get some beef.
Or no, where's the beef? Go to Wendy's. Anyway.
Yeah. It's almost as if like Caleb and I are like Vin Diesel and Dwayne the Rock Johnson. But I'm sure you guys already had that conversation. So I did miss the.
But if you want to do it, then let's do it.
We've not got into the weeds on that one yet. Not yet.
Wait, did you guys not do the news?
We didn't do the news. We did DC news.
Did DC news. All right, we're going to get into the news later, but you know what, right now, well, let's wrap up Creature Commandos review. So, overall thoughts, like a rating, let's say out of 5 stars?
Could have been great. They kind of fumbled the season. They kind of fumbled towards the finish line, but overall it was still good. Like, it was a good, it means less than Superman. I hate to diminish the great parts of this season and this show, but it's like, as James Gunn said, this is an appetizer. Superman is the real beginning, and that's where it matters. It's the big screen. It's the more well-known character. So that matters more. So as long as that does very well, then that's the thing that I think we should care about and most people should care about.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. And what about you, Liz? What do you think? Did you end up really loving the show by the end, or were you sort of like disappointed by
I mean, I was really loving the show the entire time, but again, I felt like it wasn't really it didn't feel like a season finale.
Right.
There was really not much of a cliffhanger necessarily. And again, much to what John was saying, I just wish that they had kind of rearranged the origin story episodes a little differently, so that it was a little more impactful this time around when
Right.
Nina got. But there you go. So no, I'm looking forward to season 2. I don't want it to. Again, I hope the episodes are a little longer, but aside from that, I was pleasantly surprised with this season.
Yeah. I mean, overall, this was the first DCU thing, anything really. It's the first DCU TV show or movie, and hopefully it's left an impression on the people that watched it. Now, it is an animated show, so not a ton of people, I'm sure, saw it. Not as many people certainly as what we will probably get from Superman or Supergirl. Those are like theatrically released movies that versus a TV show that's on a streaming service that Max right now is not even really available in every part of the world. So some people might have to see it through a different streaming service depending on where
Right.
you are, or like
I know,
John would suggest, right?
I know we were going through some of them. Like, there was one available in like Japan. There was one in like Germany, or like there was like
expanding this year.
Yeah. Because I know, like, I think it was Max where we were like talking about like this is where other places it's like in Canada and like all this other
they are and then in Asia
where it's not Max but it's something else.
Yeah,
but
they are bringing Max to those parts of the world this year and the next year. So hopefully, like if you haven't had the chance to check it out yet, then you'll get a chance to do so when Max is down there. But I'm sure it's going to be available for you locally through another service like John suggested. So with that in mind, of course, that wraps up our coverage of Creature Commandos Season 1, or, as the Brits would say, it's Series 1. We'll be back with more Creature Commandos coverage when the next season begins, which you don't know yet when it's going to get released, but I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. and James Gunn will probably let that information out the door, back door, or somewhere
Mhm.
eventually.
It won't be soon enough for
Don't be
me. I'll
mentioning
tell you
back
that.
doors, Dan. If I can't be gross, you can't either. Anyway,
John's just on
He's on
a
one. He's
thing
on one
today.
tonight.
yeah,
We were like, John, before the show, if you need 5 minutes to go and do something, like, please just
I'm
take your
good.
time.
I'm good.
All right, cool. All right.
I'm
well,
just gassy because I just
Cold
had
showers
dinner,
all
but outside
around,
of-
gang. Cold showers all around.
I'm
Well,
good.
with that in mind, I think we're gonna wrap up, Creature Commandos, and let us know in the chat, or if you're watching us after we were live, let us know in the comments down below whether you enjoyed Creature Commandos. And 7 episodes. For anybody watching it, it feels like it went by too fast, but maybe for you it was a drag. Just let us know what you thought about it. Give us your rating out of 5 stars. What did you think? Was it a 5 out of 5? Was it a 1 out of 5? Maybe somewhere in the middle, like a 3.5 out of 5. And while you're at it, hit that like button. There's a lot of you watching, but not as many of you have hit that like button. So hope we have earned that from you so far. Of course, we're not done yet. We do have to get into MCU Weekly. Lots of stuff, going on. With regards to Avengers Doomsday, of course, we had to talk about Captain America 4. Is Black Panther being recast? How would that even work? Cynthia Erivo, it might be looking to play a character in the new X-Men saga, or the Mutant saga, as we'll probably call it. But we'll get into that in a little bit. In the meantime, of course, if you enjoyed DCU Daily, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell. And now, with that in mind, let's get a move on to MCU Weekly. Welcome on in, and this week on MCU Weekly, we gotta dive into a ton of different stories. Of course, we are hot off the Golden Globes, and even though things have really slowed down in Hollywood, and as they should, when something as significant in what is happening right now out there with people's houses burning down and people losing their homes and all their valuables, and like really, it's one thing when you are a celebrity and you maybe have another place to go and stay. There's a lot of people, like way more people. Thousands, tens, hundreds of thousands of people who are under evacuation orders, as well as just people who have already been evacuated. And and to them, we hope that they're doing well and keeping safe. And if you are out there, then we hope that you have a chance to, of course, find some shelter and take everything that you hold dear with you. Like, hopefully you don't have to leave behind anything, because if you're not able to get back to your home, that's just a terrible thought to even think about. I mean, we're on the East Coast here, but we do wish you the very best out in LA. With that said, though, Golden Globes happened. There was a ton of news because Sebastian Stan won an award, and so he was being asked questions about what's going on in the world of the MCU. He's of course still very much a part of the MCU, Thunderbolts, and much more beyond that. Of course, I'm sure he's got stuff going on with other projects like the Avengers movies coming up. He's going to be involved in that. He's of course one of the OGs. He's been in the MCU since like the second or third MCU film with Captain America: The First Avenger, and now he's been talking about Thunderbolts a little bit. So I wanted to kind of bring that to your attention for a second here. To kick things off, Sebastian Stan did say that there is minimum CGI usage in Thunderbolts. Now, he also followed that up by saying, we did actual real stunts, like when you're watching a truck blow up, it's a truck blown up. It's not CGI. Marvel really wanted this to have its own. There were many things in the movie that were actually done practically, and I think that does go a long way. Now, Liz, Marvel is, of course, infamous for having, a tendency to use CGI overly so, where maybe sometimes
I was gonna say they used it all for Captain America, so that's why.
but in this instance,
they ran out of their budget for the year.
But very possibly that might be exactly what happened. But with that in mind, though, Liz, I mean, you look at I'm sure you've seen the trailers that are out already. There's been like a couple of inside looks. There's been a full trailer, and Thunderbolts looks like much more of that return to the grounded nature of like the Captain America: The Winter Soldier was, even to a certain degree how Captain America: Civil War played out. So they're trying to keep it more down, street level, grounded, and
I mean, dare I say they took a note from DC and said, you know what, let's make it more realistic, let's make it more practical, real world vibes. I mean, the Thunderbolts is gritty, right? It's this band of misfits that are forced together for whatever reason, and we'll find out the circumstances when the film comes out. So it makes sense to me that they would use more practical stunts and effects. Because it is kind of raw, it is kind of rough around the edges. So I'm excited for it. I think this is going to be great. I can't, you guys know I'm a Marvel stan through and through, so I can't wait for this. I love all of these characters already. And then again, seeing them all come together and how they're going to work with one another, interact with one another. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
Yeah. I mean, look, this movie feels like it's just a bunch of, super soldiers meeting up together because
Yeah,
every other character in this movie is taking the
well, and
serum.
it'll be interesting to me to see how what happens with Captain America feeds into that, because the super soldiers are a very big part of Captain America, of the plot line and everything like that. So it'll be interesting to see how one trickles into the other or connects with the other in that regard. But again, two completely different films in the sense like we're talking about, where there's a shit ton of CGI, almost like the most CGI I've ever seen in anything aside from like the Avatar films. And then this one where it's very minimal, and it's the first time they've really done, kind of scaled it back a little bit. So it'll be cool for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and like Caleb is saying there, I love the grungy look of Thunderbolts. I too love the grungy. Again, like I said, it's more boots on the ground, street level MCU, which a lot of people, every time we have gotten that, I mean, quite frankly, I think they've never really missed on that level before. And of course, this year we've got Daredevil Born Again coming in, which is the definition of a street level superhero in the MCU, especially. And then even with Captain America Brave New World, it feels like part of the movie will have more of the fantastical once the Red Hulk gets involved, but by and large, outside of that, they're trying to make it a political thriller. So at the MCU this year, the theme seems to be, well, again, then you do have the exception to the rule with Fantastic Four, which is gonna be,
Right.
much like the
That'll be
title, much
CGI
more
heavy.
fantastical.
Yeah.
But even then, their approach to that takes, a very different look, with them being astronauts, a very retro feel. So in some ways grounded, but obviously they'll have a lot more CGI. Like the Thing is going to be entirely CGI. Whereas when you look at the cast of characters in this movie for Thunderbolts, none of the characters will be CGI. There's barely any, element of these characters' costumes. Even for the Ghost, it looks like the mask is being done practically. Whereas I felt like some parts of those costumes, like the mask and stuff, was CGI, and even the Ant-Man movies where she was introduced. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm interested in this. The big thing about this movie is going to be, of course, when you're doing an ensemble, the chemistry is what matters the most. And it's gonna draw comparison to Suicide Squad. The whole, what are we, some kind of Thunderbolts? I still don't know how they get to come up with the name Thunderbolts, because in the trailer they've hinted at it. Oh yeah, we're gonna call ourselves the Thunderbolts. Like, we're not calling ourselves the Thunderbolts. I'm like, I don't even know why Red Guardian would do that. Like, it's because Thunderbolt Ross doesn't seem to be involved in any of the trailers.
He's got,
So
that's what he does. He comes up with funky names for things, and
But yeah, but I mean, the logic
bless
to me,
him.
there's a bit of a gap as to like how this connects to Thunderbolt Ross. But given that this movie comes out after Captain America 4, maybe there'll be a connection there based on how that movie ends.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to this. I like anytime you can do stuff more practically. Look, as far as CGI has come along today, and there's a lot of sequences I bet you've seen in the movie where you didn't even realize there was CGI stuff in there. It's still, when you're trying to make a movie of this scale, and certainly when Marvel cranks them out the way that they do, sometimes if you have a very heavy lean on the CGI, you could end up with things like just badly rendered helmets on Thor or stuff like that, where you could clearly tell it's CGI. And this is the thing. Great CGI is invisible to the eye. Like, you
Yep.
won't notice it, and therefore you won't worry about it. The bad CGI that we always talk about is the stuff that we notice. And hopefully in a movie where they're supposedly doing a lot more real stunts and things more practically, we won't notice any bad CGI. Now, of course, he can, Sebastian Stan did also kind of mention a little bit more about like the value of doing it this way, and why it matters so much, because he said, hey, not only did we do real stunts, when you're watching a truck blow up, it's not CGI. And that Marvel wanted to have its own, practical feel to it. He said that it matters because it goes a long way with the fans. Like, people are smart. They, the audiences, they just know. They know when they're watching something that is practical versus CGI. And here's the thing, that's true to a certain degree, because in Top Gun Maverick, a lot of those jets that are meant to be those F-18s, those F-18s in a lot of the sequences were not actually F-18s. They were a different kind of fighter that's used mostly for training in the Navy, and then they replaced them with CGI, F-18s. But because they had such good reference footage of the actual F-18s, and they were able to replicate the lighting, the texturing, and all of that, the movement, and the way it, the motion blur and all these different artifacts of the cameras, like happened because they had footage of the actual thing. They were able to replicate the CGI in a way where most of us couldn't tell it was like, and to the point where they marketed it as practical, effects, even though there was a shit ton of CGI in that movie. I think with Thunderbolts, it's another example. I think Sebastian Stan knows that we, as humans, we can tell. It's very easy for us to realize when there's an uncanny valley, and we do not want to traverse that for the next movie.
I would say yes and no, because so many studios are using volume now as well, and volume has completely changed the game. Not only for the actors themselves feeling completely immersed in this world, they're not looking at a green screen, they're not working off dots. They are using actual like atmosphere. They are enveloped in this world. So on the one hand, to Sebastian's point, and even James Gunn has said this as well. When you can use it practically and it makes sense for what you're doing, by all means, you should always stick to the tried and true. But if you have to do a little extra on the side, you throw in some special effects, you use volume, you use CGI, what have you, then if it makes sense to do it there, sometimes you have to do it there. Is it a way of cutting corners? Not necessarily, but I agree that audiences, we know what's real and what's not real at the end of the day. You understand? So but again, in this particular setting, it's such a gritty, raw kind of film, kind of tone to the whole thing. So practical effects makes tons of sense to me, and I'm looking forward to it. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it as well. I think all of the 3 movies this year that Marvel has coming out in the MCU, they each have a unique appeal to them, because they each are trying to tackle a different part of the universe. In fact, a lot of them are trying to answer questions that many of us have been asking for the longest time. Fantastic Four is like the first really significant set of characters that Disney acquired from Fox, and bringing back into the House of Marvel. Then, of course, with Thunderbolts, you're getting these unknown commodities. Not unknown commodities, I shouldn't say that. It's more a lot of these characters we just haven't seen featured in their own movie. They haven't basically been at the top of the line. They've been supporting characters, but now can they pool together and really make some magic happen? Because you have a character like Red Guardian who's very underrated, and I felt like underutilized in Black Widow, but even in the limited role that he had, he became like a fan favorite to the point where now
it was a good introduction to that character. But I am glad that they brought him back so we can kind of flesh him out a little more. But also, we said in the very beginning, I was kind of brushing off Thunderbolts, but I keep saying to you guys, until there's a trailer, I cannot give you my opinion. So now that the trailer has come out, I am so very much looking forward to this. I really can't wait. And again, to see how Captain America connects to it, because again, you guys know I'm not really looking forward to seeing Captain America. I'll see it, but just to kind of get the ball rolling for the projects in 2025. And again, Fantastic Four, same thing. I really can't say much about it until they give me something to look at and to judge, So I'm all for it. I'm all in for Thunderbolts for sure.
Yeah, I agree with you. And like I said, it's not only just Thunderbolts and Fantastic Four that are have very unique challenges in front of them, but also problems and that they're, in a manner of speaking, solving for the MCU. Captain America 4 is trying to solve a pretty big problem that is, of course, the Eternal in the middle of the ocean. And then beyond that, you've got the whole reshoot situation. And speaking of the reshoots, one of the wrestlers.
Also, quick thing I wanted to mention before we moved on. I love how in this day and age, making movies not on a green screen has now fucking become like a thing to sell your movie. Yes, making a movie on in an actual house or on the actual desert, that's like a selling point now.
But even directors have been
shooting shit practically should not be a selling point. That should
But even directors have been talking about that too. Directors have been bringing that up too. One of the directors in his Golden Globe speech said, everybody thought I was crazy for shooting on 70 millimeter. This is a constant
Jenna
thing.
Ortega was saying it on Beetlejuice. She was like, "Oh yeah, we shot in real places." Like, wow. Crazy. We were only doing that for 100 years.
Well, because we're technology is advancing and everybody wants to use the new shiny toy. So we get hung up on the new and look what I can do with this and look what I can do with that. So when you do go back to the basics, it is newsworthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, speaking of newsworthy, of course, Seth Rollins, who you might know him from the WWE. I, of course, know him from WWE. He's been with the company for a long time. He's one of the best wrestlers around today. And as a multi-time world champion, he's also ventured into doing some acting work. And he was meant to be part of Captain America: Brave New World, but according to him now, it looks like because of all the reshoots, as far as he's aware, a lot of his role has either been completely cut out or most of it has been erased.
Like he came in, read for stuff, and then it got cut out, or did he actually? Or is he saying he filmed stuff?
It sounds like he's saying he filmed.
Yeah, exactly. He was in there. The quote is, the script went through a lot of rewrites and reshoots. So what I was there to do, essentially, my role got either repurposed or completely erased. So
it looks like kind of vague, but okay.
It's a little vague, but I think the implication is he did shoot some stuff, and it looks like some of that might have been either minimized or erased. But you know what? I bet you he's not the only one who that happened to. It might have happened to a bunch of other actors and characters as well. But look, this poster gives me Red October vibes, and just kind of like an old school Jack Ryan movie. And if that's what they're going for,
they're definitely going like for full military vibes.
Yeah, but like like all the missiles flying up, it looks like basically it's pretty much a Jack Ryan movie from the 90s or the 80s or the 90s.
Except not good.
Well, but hey, I appreciate the artwork. If you can remind me of The Hunt for Red October, then I'm like, okay, you're doing something right. Even though that wasn't a Harrison Ford Jack Ryan movie, of course he did a few.
That was Alec Baldwin.
That was an Alec Baldwin.
He got his shot.
Tadum Tish. Thank you. Well, with that in mind, let's keep the ball rolling here. This is
keep
like
the ball Seth rolling. There it is.
Yes.
Anyway.
Oh, wow.
You're full of good puns today. Or bad puns.
Good
puns.
Full of puns. Full of puns.
Well, this news comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, and I felt this was significant because we've been talking about Kraven. Recently, we have always come up with different kinds of names for potential Morbius sequels, and of course, the terrible responsibility, great power, blah 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 line from Madam Web and Venom. You mentioned just a day ago, John, that the Venom VFX somehow looked better in Spider-Man 3 than they did in any of the 3 Venom movies. I would like to say, technically speaking, that's not entirely true, but I also understand where you're coming from. Now, with that in mind, Palak Patel has now left Sony, and he was basically the one responsible, the executive responsible for the Sony Spider-Man spin-off movies, and then he also served as the studio's point man for the MCU Spider-Man films. So now that they're not around anymore, I gotta ask you guys, like, is this the pivot that they were looking for? Because we know that they're gonna put a pause on this whole universe that they were trying to create, even though the movies really didn't connect, because they wanted to do better quality control. And a lot of times when you have a problem that feels systemic, it usually is trickling down from the very top. So if Palak Patel was the one in charge of all of these movies, then do you think removing him first is the necessary step that you need in order to improve the quality of these movies? Or do you think this is just, step one of many to come, because obviously it's not just one person who made all these terrible films. All the directors, the writers, and everything.
I mean, because I think it's Amy Pascal. She's really the reason why.
Yeah, but like, Liz, what do you think about this?
It's a start, and hopefully it's a shakeup that they need that will, make them see the light and make some better decisions and make some changes on how they approach things. But I'll still see their stuff. Madam Web for me was still one of the worst things I've ever seen. And that, and it was so disappointing. But the other projects that, again, I didn't hate Kraven. I didn't even hate Morbius. So we'll see what happens.
Yep. Well, hello to Caleb not Caleb. Let me get back to the.
Well, yeah, Caleb too. Hi, Caleb.
Well, hello, Caleb. You are still in the chat. Thanks for sticking around.
Morbius versus God versus me.
By the way, Caleb's saying, how can you cast Seth Rollins and not use him? What a mistake. I'm sure he's in there somewhere, but he just doesn't have as big of a role as he was originally going to have. Now,
I will say, Madam Web isn't like. I will say, at least with Madam Web, it's laughably bad. Like, it's fun. Like,
I heard that people were like, Kraven is just bad. Like,
Kraven's way better than Madam Web.
Kraven's far better than Madam Web. Madam Web
I've seen people say like it's worse.
This is how I would rate the Spider-Verse films, thank you, Caleb, is the worst is easily Venom Let There Be Carnage, because it's the closest to like being actually really bad. It's just like it doesn't have a lot of entertainment value, and they fuck up Carnage. They waste Woody Harrelson. They waste Naomi Harris. They
Very
waste all these
disappointing, that
great
movie.
actors.
Yeah.
They waste a good director. They like how the heck you wasted Gollum directing your movie. Fuck you guys. So it does have some decent parts here and there, but it's mostly forgettable and pretty bad. Then I would say Madam Web. Again, this is where it gets like so bad it's good.
So
Where it's just like, you know,
It's
her
a
getting
sweet spot.
blinded by a
It's
firework.
the Batman and Robin's
No, it's
zone.
Her getting
Oh.
blinded by a firework, him getting killed by Pepsi sign, ADR, the lack of like respect for anything comic book related, Adam Scott being there, he's fun. And it's just like, yeah, it's a very weird movie. I had fun with it. It's not good, but I had fun with it. Same with Morbin Time. Like it's fun. It's stupid. And also, there was a great video reviewer. I don't remember his name. He doesn't really make videos that much anymore, but he had a really good Morbius review. I think the channel name is Absolute Unit. He's really funny. Like I would look up their he like the thing is he takes the form of like a VTuber, but he talks like a Brooklyn plumber. So it like the voice doesn't, it's really funny. And his purely on their review of Morbius makes Morbius number 4 for me. But even then, you had Matt Smith, who was great. Like you had Matt Smith doing a Bully Maguire dance. That's just perfection right there. And then, you know, Jared Leto, Honka Honka, perfect, amazingly bad. And then yeah, it's just like, again, it's like having those like really bad moments, but it's still being really funny. And then I would say then Craven, then Venom Last Dance, and then the best one is Venom. Like I would say Craven, Venom Last Dance, and Venom are the closest to being really good movies. But like I would say Craven and Venom Last Dance are decent. Venom is the closest to being like an actually good movie. So that's just what I think.
Yeah. I mean, the idea of, you know, Null being introduced, but then they sort of really only gave us a glimpse and didn't really go very far with it. I think a lot of people were disappointed we didn't get more of it, because they kind of teased that he would have a bigger role in the movie than he ultimately ended up having. So, and the idea of like having Null kind of come to the MCU, maybe they do cross them over for the Secret Wars, you know, crossover. It's like I remember when back in the day, Amy Pascal would be like, "Oh yes, we're gonna cross these characters over and everything." And like Kevin Feige sitting next to her is like smiling, like, "Yeah, totally, we are, Amy. That's exactly what we talked about." He just doesn't say anything. It's just hilarious. But hey, the story is that Palak Patel, who was in charge of the Sony Spider-Man spin-offs, and of course was a point man also for the MCU Spider-Man films. So I guess on that front they did really well. But then on the Sony Spider-Man spin-offs, they really, you know, missed a lot more than they hit. Well, they're gone now. So hopefully that means that there's going to be some more, you know, grand overall, just systemic structural changes with how they approach these movies. They would focus more on quality. And, you know, look, ultimately, they weren't that far off the mark in some ways. You know, Craven, Aaron Taylor Johnson, great actor, almost a perfect casting, and he certainly gave it his best. The movie didn't suck because he didn't try hard enough. Like, you know, Tom Hardy is probably the best Venom we've ever seen in live action. So, and even like, I mean, Jared Leto's an Academy Award winning actor. And Dakota Johnson, you may not love all of her movies, but she's also
I mean, she was
talented.
in 50 Shades of Grey, but we all make mistakes.
Which one's a mistake, though?
But hey, look, I'm just saying, you know, they're not that far off the mark.
Her entire career is a mistake.
Thank you, great. But look, hopefully Sony can, you know, flip the script, and then when they do start making more of these projects, of course they do have, you know, a Spider-Man Noir currently in production, but when we get more movies from the cinematic universe that they're, you know, setting up adjacent to the MCU, hopefully it will be better, and the movies will be better, the stories that they're telling will be better, the scripts will be better, the dialogue will be better. The VFX in all of these movies have been pretty good. I don't think they've missed on that front. So the casting has been great. They just are bad movies, like in terms of stories and dialogue. So yes, that needs improvement, and it starts at the top, and that seems to be where they're, you know, that's where the purge begins over at Sony. So with that in mind, let's talk a little bit more about some speculation, a rumor, if as it were, because it is a rumor. It's coming from Cryptic 4K Qual on X, and the rumor is that there have been talks about a Hulk versus Wolverine movie. Now, they are saying that it's way more likely that this is going to happen during the Mutant Saga. Now, we do know there's a couple of untitled movie placeholders on the Marvel schedule for the next few years. So people might wonder that maybe one of those untitled, dates gets filled in with a Hulk versus Wolverine movie. We did get that little sequence in Deadpool and Wolverine where, he's jumping to the different timelines and you see the Wolverine that fights the Hulk, which is like very much, they're trying to replicate the comic book cover there. So we have seen a glimpse of maybe how they might want to do it, but I don't know if ultimately when they do this, and it's chances are if you're gonna have a Hulk and Wolverine in the MCU moving forward, most likely you're gonna want to have this confrontation happen, and then why not do it as an entire movie? But I doubt that it's gonna include the current actors playing the roles. I don't think Hugh Jackman is going to be a Wolverine at that point. I don't believe not. Mark Ruffalo is going to be still the Hulk. But Liz, hopefully what do you think about the idea of doing a Hulk versus Wolverine movie in the MCU and the idea that they might, have that be one of the movies in the Mutant Saga after Secret Wars?
No, I'm for it, but I also agree, as much as I love Hugh Jackman and I appreciate all that he's done for the franchise, and Mark Ruffalo as well. Mark Ruffalo is hands down my favorite iteration of Hulk. I'm tired of seeing those boys. I don't think they can do it anymore. I don't think they should be doing it anymore. So if that happens, I wonder, is it going to be animated? Because I think it's too soon to recast at this point. I think the fans would mutiny, but at the same time, I really don't see them taking this on, especially because it seems like it's a very action heavy story. So it'll be interesting.
I don't know
to
how
see
you
what
would do this
happens.
For fucking 2 hours.
Right. Well, we certainly don't want another Batman versus Superman situation.
Exactly. Wolverine hits him with a sink just for no
right,
reason.
Literally. Yeah. And then we come to find out that both of their mothers have the same name, so now we can shake hands and be friends. Please. Anyway.
Yeah, Logan's gonna be like, if there's a 1% chance, we have to take that as an absolute certainty. And then
because I don't understand how math works.
Right. But and then so also, how far down the line are we talking? Like, what year are we saying that this is possibly going to happen? Is because I feel like the timeline is a big factor here as well. So we'll see what happens. But I mean, again, it's Marvel. I'll watch it. I'm always interested in hearing new stories and new iterations, but I don't see Hugh Jackman or Mark Ruffalo coming back for this. And I think we're at a point where it's time to recast. But again, not within this year. Certainly it's a little too soon. So at the very least, I would say, let's make it animated. You could bring the guys back for voice acting, fine. But I think it would,
or just bringing Cal
right now.
Again.
Well, I just think for right now, the best play would be to make it animated if they are going to move forward with this project. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, by the way, Hugo Millie stepped away from the show earlier, and they're back, and it looks like they saw Creature Commandos, the finale. So, thank you for stopping by again, and it looks like you had fun with it. So did John and Liz, and we really appreciate that you are here with us. Now we're talking Marvel, so Caleb's suggesting, Liz, that if you could potentially do this as a special presentation, maybe.
Sure.
Now, I will say, though, Kevin Feige mentioned this not too long ago, that they're kind of done with the special presentation idea, that, they did those, a few of them, but now moving forward, they're going to stick to, doing, limited series and movies. So
yeah, because the fucking shows, the ones where, one has been actually critically praised, yet every special presentation you did were all praised. Yeah, let's stop doing the thing that, where all of them worked, and let's keep doing the thing where almost none of them have worked. That totally makes sense. Yeah.
Just fair enough. I had the same reaction.
Great
I was like, why, because why abandon the idea of doing these one-off specials? They work so well. Literally, like you said, every single one of the ones that they produced were done well. They had something unique to offer.
Well, again, because they're so hung up. No, again, because they're so hung up on everything has to connect. Everything has to be eventually fall back to the same universe. So I don't agree. I also don't agree. I think they should. I don't know why they're doing the things that they're doing, but
But I mean, even
That's-
most of those one-offs like were part of the MCU, right? Like
Yeah.
the Werewolf by Night exists within the main MCU timeline. It's just we don't know what, where, and what time, and blah blah blah.
It's like
But
it got people excited for
yeah,
fucking Man Thing. Like people are excited to see Man Thing again. Like, guys, come on! Like, there's no way you could have done that with anything else, and they did it. Like,
Yeah.
what? And
well,
then people like
speaking,
Kevin Bacon coming in for the Guardians holiday
dude,
special.
Kevin Bacon playing Kevin Bacon, that was one of the best things I've seen Marvel do
It's
in the
like
last
pretty
year.
everybody loved those, and then meanwhile, like
Yeah.
half of like the fucking shows have sucked. Like from like critical and like audience are like, yeah, these are like, I think the only ones I've heard like a lot of praise for are like Hawkeye, maybe Moon Knight, and maybe Miss Marvel. The rest, like,
I mean, Loki's pretty great, but I mean,
even
yeah.
with second season, I've heard let it. Again,
Yeah.
I can't
Well,
judge. I can't judge, so I
but
don't
it's
know. I'm
also,
just going off
yeah.
what other people have said.
Well, it's also hard to have a second season when one of your main castmates gets arrested and thrown off the project, and you have to
Whoopsie
completely,
daisies.
you know, do bad things. Bad things happen. But
Yep.
I mean, but they're gonna but keep making what ifs and make Marvel zombies, and
Don't
I
make
just
what
I
if.
don't.
Don't make.
But that's
Don't make more.
but that's
What
my
if.
point. That's what I'm saying. I was being sarcastic, but that's
Oh, okay.
that's my that's my point. This is what I don't understand. Like to what you said, John.
Like
Why are you
I
sticking with things that nobody
the
likes?
things that don't work, because like I've seen like so many people like being like, why are you fucking going on with like what if was kind of a neat idea, and it could have been a
Yeah,
really
the
good
one
idea.
off. Yeah, but for there to
But
be
it's like
3
it kept
seasons of
going,
it
and
already,
people are.
like
I haven't seen one. I mean, I'm sure they're out there. I'm sure there are people that like the show, but from what I have seen, I have
no.
not seen a single person praise the last 2 seasons of What If.
No, because their background, if anything, like, and that's what I did with season 1. I was like, oh, this is interesting, but I kept it on in the background. It certainly wasn't anything that captured my attention or
And the
made me like
fucking like
rethink my
it's
feelings
like
on Marvel.
this is
I don't get.
coming from
There's no point.
Disney. Why
Yeah,
does their animation suck dick? This is literally the
they're
cornerstone
trying
of like
cool new
animation
things,
in
man. They
film,
gotta
and
try
it's
cool
just like
shit.
it's
They gotta be artsy
guys.
with it. They gotta be
This
different. They gotta be
shit looks
unique.
worse than the straight to fucking like Disney sequels. Like, what is going on
Like, how
here?
do you have like lens flares in animation? But yeah, I mean, I don't know.
God,
You know.
God, Young Justice had the budget of a ham sandwich for
I
their
mean, I think
latest
it's meant to
seasons,
look
and it
pretty.
looked better than this shit. Like, Jesus
But
fucking Christ.
well, speaking of, Disney Plus Marvel TV shows, I mean, they might
Oh
be done
boy.
with the one-offs, but they do still have more TV shows coming, one of which is
Unfortunately.
Ironheart, and it looks like, according to
Oh
Marvel
wow,
updates,
cool. Don't care.
No one's gonna
the,
watch it.
No one's gonna
first
watch
trailer
this
is
shit.
coming in
Sorry to
April.
say, no one's gonna watch it.
Well,
Nobody
I'm
likes
just look,
Riri Williams. Nobody. Nobody likes this character.
it's
Why are you
look,
doing
this is the thing. Her character so far, I felt like was just rammed into the second Black Panther movie
Yeah.
and didn't really need to be there. Like
And
if that
she's pretty
character didn't
That's what I
exist,
heard.
I understand that they kind of put her in they kind of made her the reason why Namor and Atlantis like come to blows with
Oh,
Wakanda,
cool.
but
So she started a war. That's great.
well, but like no, it's more so the technology that she has. It's accidentally, yes. But I'm saying you could have written a way more interesting version of that story that could have, had a
Yep.
more direct conflict between the two nations. That would have felt a lot stronger than what they did, which is one of the reasons why I thought it was an inferior movie to the first one, where literally the first movie, the first Black Panther, it tests who Chadwick Boseman's T'Challa is as a man and his values.
But I mean,
It
there was
forces him
only
to
so much
question
you
his
could
own
do
values.
with your star dying.
I
so they
know
couldn't
that,
really-
but I'm saying, but like, this is where I personally am one of the people who's like they should have recast him then, which we'll have a longer conversation about that in a little bit. But but with that said, even if with going in the direction that they did, I feel like Riri Williams was maybe not the best way to make that story work. But nonetheless, they made the decision. She's part of the MCU. And look, here's the thing. What I was trying to say earlier is, while her character so far has not amounted to something that someone that a lot of people love necessarily,
right?
She still has the potential to grow into a character that we love. And look, if they do this show well, I'm gonna walk away from this show being like, you know what, Riri Williams Ironheart is probably one of the best new additions to the MCU. I'm so glad I watched the show, and yes, I want to see more
but
of
the problem is they're not going to do it through a show. If they threw her in another film, if they made her an important piece of another movie that, you know, hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people are going to see, when you put stuff automatically on a TV show that's so limited your audience, it's not, they don't care about this character. They're not trying to build up this character. They're not trying to bring this character into the fold. It's just another cash grab, which is the majority of their shows. So it's not, it's a real shame, because they could be putting value on these side characters like James Gunn is now doing with DC, and instead they're just kind of like, we gave them their 5 minutes. That's what's going on, and it's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, but you know what? Here in this instance, they're gonna give her entire show, an entire series, just focus on her. And of course, I think Anthony Ramos is part of this, right? Like he's one of the
I mean, the
antagonists in
G.I.
the
Joe
show.
crossover ain't happening anymore, so he's
He's
got to go
gonna-
to Marvel now.
Well, I mean, he signed up for this project, you know, while he was working on that previous Transformers movie. So, regardless of, you know, whether they Lorenzo Di Bonaventura, like regardless of whether they figure that shit out over at Paramount or not, he's gonna be part of the MCU. And look, we
Hasbro said
haven't
they're
gotten
not
a
doing
trailer
it
for this
anymore,
yet, but the trailer is coming in
Right.
April, and it's gonna pretty much line up right around when I think Daredevil Born Again is probably either in mid-release or is just about to finish releasing. Because look,
Yeah.
Marvel has like 9
the
different
show
things
that
going on this
people
year.
actually care about.
It was like, I think Fandango's either Fandango or IMDb's most anticipated show of the year, which surprised me. But anyway, yeah, Ironheart. I'm just saying, give it a shot. If you if you hate it after the first couple episodes, you can always put it away. But I have a feeling that if they hit this right, all of us, because the thing is, everybody wants an Iron Man in the MCU, and I know nobody's gonna replace Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, but Riri Williams could potentially be just as endearing of a character and then go in a new direction. And so far, we have seen so many other iterations of like, oh, an iron suit here, an iron suit there. I want a definitive version that kind of carries the torch forward. So for me, I'm going to give it a shot. Given the hit rate of MCU shows on Disney Plus, chances are the show will be mediocre and probably just mid. But nonetheless, I'm like, why not give it a shot and see if it turns out to be anything good? And if it does, there's, you know, you got nothing to lose, right? Like I'm excited to at least see the premiere and maybe the first couple episodes. I'll give it that much of a runway. But hey, now we got to talk about our big stories of the day in MCU Weekly. Of course, there are 2 big ones. The first one I'll start off with is the fact that, hey, you know what? Wicked is still making bank at the box office, even though it's, you know, now out on digital. So
My parents tried to go today, and it's still sold out.
It is, dude. It's crazy. I mean, you can now rent it at home and watch it on your TV, but you can still, of course, see it in a movie theater. And we know there's a sequel coming out later this year. We know it's getting nominated for tons of awards already, much like the Penguins. So with that in mind, Cynthia Erivo, you know, the lead of the movie, she has got her eyes set on a potential Marvel character, and of course, we're talking about Storm. So Storm is, you know, a key part of the X-Men, and so Cynthia Erivo wants to play Storm in the MCU. Do you believe, Liz, that this is something where she's just sort of expressing interest, or do you think there's more to it than that, that maybe behind the scenes more conversations have been had, and maybe, just maybe, we'll get introduced to Cynthia Erivo's Storm in, you know, let's say, I don't know, Secret Wars? Is it possible?
I mean, I'm for it any way we can get it. I think she's a wonderful actress. And I say this without trying to be an asshole, but I hope she doesn't sing, because there's no fucking need for it. I will say that's one thing that absolutely fucking drives me crazy. Like Zooey Deschanel apparently can't do a single fucking project without singing because she's a singer. So in the majority of the things that I've seen Cynthia in, she sings no matter what. And when there's no need for it, there's no need for it. Like Aurora's never, not Aurora, excuse me, but she's never broken out in song in the like, you know, in any iteration of Storm before. So just because we have, you know, she's talented in that way doesn't mean that's what we need. That's the very first thing I thought of. Like, yeah, she could do it. She's got the look, she's got the acting chops, absolutely, but she better not fucking land a single note, because that's completely ridiculous. So that's really my only feeling on it. Whether or not they're already in talks, I'm sure they are. I mean, she's a big deal right now. You can't get any bigger than her at the moment. So that wouldn't surprise me if they weren't already. But again, you know, she could just be like Alan Richardson, just throwing it out there and just saying, hey, I'm
I
here.
shot her off the
I'm
rooftops.
interested. Yeah. So well, like again, it'd be great, but she has no reason to sing, so that's
Yeah, I
really
do.
my only
Well,
feeling on it.
I agree with you. I don't think, we need a storm that breaks out into song while she's commanding the storm clouds above
No.
us. Like, it doesn't need to be the case. But the fact that she wants to do this, of course, she mentioned this at the National Board of Review, and the quote from her was, because she was asked, like, hey, what is a dream role that you would like to maybe manifest? And she said, I really want to play Storm. I know it sounds frivolous, but I think, what a word, but I think we haven't uncovered how grand she is and all of the inner turmoil that she has. Now, of course, Marvel Studios has been gradually introducing us to the X-Men already. We have gotten the hint that, hey, Miss Marvel is a mutant. We have seen, the Kelsey Grammer version of Beast and what was it, the Marvels. And of course, we know that the Kevin Feige has said after the multiverse saga ends, we're going into the mutant saga. And with that in mind, I mean, John, do you think it's realistic that if an actor of the caliber and certainly right now the star power of Cynthia Erivo, if she says publicly enough that, hey, I want to manifest myself playing Storm, is Kevin Feige listening? Do you think this is even be a good idea potentially if she was cast as a Storm in the new era of the MCU?
I don't. It's tough because I think with X-Men and all those characters, what you need more so than anything is the chemistry between characters. And that's because that's what made the original films work so well.
Yeah.
Like the between Hugh Jackman and James Marsden and Famke Janssen and Halle Berry, the chemistry between those characters was near perfect. And that's what made those movies work so well. And I think that's the thing they should be going for. Now, if Cynthia Erivo can do that, then awesome. Great. Let's go. Then I'd say go for it. But in terms of X-Men, I would prefer that they go with more smaller known actors. Like, I know because there's like, oh, cast fucking like Daniel Radcliffe as Wolverine. And it's like, no, let's not do that. Let's like go with like a smaller like actor who's like who can fit really well into the mold of what they want to do. And it should be an ensemble of like kind of known names, maybe up and comers, but let's not get like fucking Timothy Chalamet for Cyclops. It's like let's not do that. So I think now with Wicked, Cynthia Erivo was always like a really good talent. And I would say if this was prior to Wicked, I would say more so definitely. But
Yeah.
now that she's exploded as pretty much this well-known name because of this movie, I think that's less likely. And I don't think that that's what Marvel wants to do in regards to something that's more ensemble based like the X-Men.
You know what? I hear you on all those fronts, but she herself is like, this is a dream role I want to manifest. I'm like, if she
And
says
but
I
the thing
want to
is,
do
again,
this,
I always say this: if it's tomorrow, Kevin Feige is like, you know what, Cynthia, I agree with you. You're cast as Storm. Am I gonna complain? Fuck no, I'm not gonna complain because I think she could do it, and I think she could do it really fucking well. It's just I think what they should be focusing on is not getting every A-lister and not getting every like everything that they want to do. No.
Well, but
Um
that'll also be a problem too,
I wouldn't
right? So
mind
if
it.
she's the biggest name they have, then it becomes all about her and all
exactly.
about Storm,
No, but
regardless of the storyline. So it's a
It's a tricky thing
kind
to
of
like,
balance to have.
I
but
Yeah.
I
it's just
hear
like you
you
need an
guys.
ensemble that works well together
Well,
and they
because the
should
original
focus on
X-Men
that.
cast, with the exception of Sir Patrick Stewart, were essentially all unknowns at the
No,
time.
well, but look, Famke Jensen had already been a Bond girl. She was fairly well
She
known.
was a Bond girl. That she was a
I,
Bond girl. Like it's not that's not significant at all.
It's
Not
fair
at
though.
all.
Like a lot of the other, you are right. A lot of the other cast members weren't as well known. I mean, of course, Ian McKellen was very well known. So there were definitely a couple of actors in there that kind of buoyed,
Like you had
as far
older
as name
legends
recognition
that were
goes.
known.
Yeah.
But
Right.
James
But look,
Marsden
this
was
is
kind of
Marvel doing
known.
it.
Famke Jensen was kind of known.
But
Fucking
again,
Hugh
not
Jackman
on
definitely
this
wasn't
level.
known.
Wasn't known,
But
yeah.
yeah,
No,
not on this level
not
is,
on this
is my
level.
point.
That's what I'm
Is my
saying.
point.
I'm just saying it could work, especially look, this is almost like a story that connects to the next story, because think about it. In the comics, Storm and T'Challa have a pretty close relationship. I feel like if they were to recast the role of T'Challa after having killed the character off in the movies, so that they didn't want to recast him at the time with Chadwick Boseman's passing. I'm just thinking if you bring in a T'Challa now in the MCU, it's probably a multiverse version of the character, and if you do that, then maybe that version of the character is in love with, and maybe even married to, and they're king and queen of Wakanda with Storm, and maybe that's where you get Cynthia Erivo's version of Storm, and that then merges into the secret timeline.
Right.
That could work. I mean, I'm now with that in mind, let's kind of switch focus to that Black Panther story. So of course there's rumors out there that potentially Marvel is looking to finally recast T'Challa for the upcoming Black Panther appearances. We know there's a third Black Panther that is in the works, and will feature Denzel Washington, which was something that he unknowingly. I mean, I don't know how he unknowingly he just just spoiled for everybody, and then he apologized to Ryan Coogler for it. But we know there's Ironheart is gonna potentially feature some cameos from the cast of Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. But with a third movie in the works, with these two Avengers movies coming up, we're gonna get more multiversal variants of a lot of these characters, I'm sure, in Doomsday and Secret Wars. I wonder if this casting is now the time to do it, really, because I personally I'm somebody who thought they should have done it before we even got the second Black Panther movie. Like they should have kept the T'Challa character going forward, and the best way to honor Chadwick Boseman would have been to keep to basically take the mantle, and then have somebody come in who can just go and take the character to another level and honor the work that Chadwick Boseman had done to kind of just basically introduce us to one of the best characters that the MCU has had to date. What do you guys think? Do you think this is even a good idea? I'll start with you, Liz. What do you think the idea of finally recasting this role, is it timely? Is it a good idea? Should they even think about it? What are your thoughts?
I understand why they would think about it. I don't again, I've said this before. I think it's a little too soon. However, because we are going the variant route, we are going the multi-world route, I could see there being something where it's not like because he has died. We have celebrated him in the second film. We have it's not like they're just going to all of a sudden be like, oh, JK, he's alive. So the only way it would work is if he was a variant from another world. So in that regard, I'm okay with it. In that regard, I'm okay with it, because that's not our T'Challa. That's the other world's T'Challa. So that totally makes sense to me.
Where it says right there.
In the other hand, to me, if you're gonna try and bring back our T'Challa, then to me, you'd have to start completely from scratch. So recast the whole fucking thing. Start with a brand new at a brand new timeline, a brand new story.
I mean,
so
those
are the only those are only the two realistic ways that they can do it. I would love John David Washington. It would make sense. I think this might be the first thing that he would work with his father on, which would be kind of cool if that were to be the case. But again, I'm okay with it in the sense of that's where we are in the MCU timeline. So to your point, Dan, it does make sense now. It didn't make sense back then. And it was too soon. It was too raw. Frankly, I think they came out with Black Panther 2 way too soon after his passing anyway, but they wanted to address his passing. So I understand that as well. It's a tricky thing. It's a fine line. And I think, seeing all the things that people were saying, I think they should have kind of put that in the headline. They should have said he'd be coming back as a variant. Whereas now people are like, how dare you recast? And you already said goodbye to him. So how would that even work? You can't bury the lead like that. Like you really
Yeah.
need to kind of be a little more specific with your wording of these
But
headlines,
the thing is
knowing
that
that it's
involves
people
clickbait, rage bait. The rage bait.
well,
They
but
get more
again,
clicks.
you
So.
know, the 90, I would say 75% of people that see these stories go by the headline alone. So that's where all this rage and anger is coming from, is because this is how you presented it to everybody. So I
Yeah.
understand
Well,
it.
I mean, to those of you guys just listening to the show, potentially, I want to read the quote here in the article from Jeff Snyder. He was I think either talking to or reporting through the direct, and basically what he said was, with Marvel reshuffling the deck in advance of Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, and Robert Downey Jr. coming back not as Iron Man but as Doctor Doom, I'm told that the door is firmly open for T'Challa to be recast via the magic of the multiverse. So again,
Right.
very specifically calling out the idea that you bring back T'Challa not through maybe bringing him back from the dead or like the Lazarus pit or anything like that, but literally
Wrong
maybe another
franchise.
timeline. Well, I'm just saying, maybe
I
the
know
Marvel
you mean.
equivalent of that. With that in mind, though, John, do you think like even bringing him back that way, do you think that's gonna feel like a betrayal to a lot of the fans who are like, great, like we did all of that in the last movie, and to kind of like put a bow on it, all of a sudden there's a
I
T'Challa
mean,
back in
we
the story.
fucking already got like Toby and Andrew as other Spider-Man. It's like whatever. Like I understand he's dead and that's sad, but it's like I've said this many a times before now. Unfortunately, I never knew the man personally, so I don't know how he was as a man. But I have a strong feeling with how much he loved this character, how much he loved playing him. I'm gonna take a wild guess, and from what I've gathered from what his family has said, what co-stars have said, that he's not the type of man that would have wanted this character to die with him because it's too important of a character. And I've said, like, when somebody gets cast to play a character, you're not the be all and end all. You're just a part of the history now. This character existed far before you, and it's gonna exist far after you. So I was always open with them recasting even from the beginning. I would have preferred M'Baku being the next Black Panther. Not obviously not T'Challa, but like just my boy got shortchanged in terms of that
Dude,
because
they should have.
M'Baku is
M'Baku was so
fucking the
good.
goat. Anyway,
So good.
Yeah,
One
I've
of my
been saying
favorite
that
but
from the
MCU
beginning
honestly,
characters.
they
too.
could do
Yeah.
this. Like maybe like Winston Duke plays another version, a multiversal
Oh, I
T'Challa.
would love that.
That because
That would be
Winston Duke would
interesting.
be
Yeah.
that would
I
be
do love
awesome.
him.
But whatever they decide to
Shit,
do,
Michael B. Jordan can come back and play a different, play that
you
a
can
different
play
variant,
T'Challa, yeah.
That'd be great for me.
But I think whatever they decide to
I don't know
do,
about that one. But
whatever they decide to do, I think it'll be okay. I don't think people need to, because I saw friends that are like, oh, this is a betrayal. This is fucking terrible. It's like he's a character. Like if we can get 700,000 Batmen, we can get a second Black Panther. Now I understand it's the same like timeline, the same thing. But as people said, like they're already thinking about soft rebooting it after Secret Wars. So it's
I
like
mean,
we're to
yeah,
incorporate Fantastic Four, the X-Men, and all this other shit into
yeah.
one universe so it actually makes sense again.
hmm
So,
And look, it looks like they're a lot further along the process than even we necessarily realized. Just reading the headline and the first paragraph of just talking about, hey, they're thinking about recasting. No, they actually might be actively looking to do this, because one of the other things that was in that same article in the direct was, Jeff Snyder said, I heard that an actor was actually offered the role this past fall, a couple of months after Disney's big reveal at Comic-Con, but they turned it down, not wanting to jeopardize their career momentum by stepping into Boseman's gigantic shoes, which may be too big to fill even for Hollywood's most talented black actors. He continued to say, although it remains unclear if the character will appear in the upcoming Avengers, Jeff Snyder believes that the newly cast T'Challa will lead Black Panther 3.
I think
Now,
that would be dumb because then, as Liz said, it would just be weird and awkward. I'm talking about it from a storytelling storytelling perspective, not even from an emotional perspective. It would be so fucking weird because it's not like because it's not outlandish enough like with comics, like, okay, Barry Allen comes back after 23 years. Okay, yeah, sure, Gucci, whatever. So like that makes sense because he was in the Speed Force and like you can, it's just the way that they like went so far to celebrate this character and to celebrate what Chadwick was in and out of universe. They went so like Ryan Coogler was emotionally destroyed after Boseman passed away. So I don't think that they would have a T'Challa. I don't think they would resurrect him because again, logistically, I just don't think that that would make sense. Nor would I think they like pluck a multiverse variant and be like, "You're our Black Panther now," because that's just again weird and awkward, and not even from because I'm on the fence of like the whole betrayal thing of emotionally because I'm neither here nor there because I don't really like the Black Panther franchise that much. They're like okay. I don't think they're like God's greatest gift to humanity like a lot of other people do. But it's mainly about a representation thing, and I'm not black, so it's like you can
Right.
if you love it and you want that representation, awesome, that's great, and I'm happy you have it. But it's just like, but if we're talking about the emotional burden, I'm not really the right person to talk about this because I don't really care all that much. But I just think as someone from like a guy who watches a lot of movies and watches a lot of genre movies and franchises, from a logic point of view, it would just be too awkward, way too awkward from a storytelling perspective. It would just would not work, even for comic book bullshit that you can make up to make him come back.
Well,
I just think it would be too awkward with what you did with Wakanda Forever.
I hear what you're saying, John, but I think my counter to that would be if they introduce him within one of these Avengers movies and he's a variant from another world, you can address a lot of the way the fans would feel about it within
Right.
the course of the movies by saying, all right, he's an outsider, now he's he's stuck in our world because all these worlds somehow combine, whatever, however
Whatever
we
it
end
is.
up closing off the multiverse.
I
And
can see that working.
he has to like earn his way into any sense of respect and kind of the place that he held in his own world, and so he won't necessarily take on the mantle like immediately, but I'm
Yes.
saying you build him up over the course of these Avengers
That could
movies,
work. That could
and
work.
then like even at the start of Black Panther 3 he's not that, but then you
What I'm
let him
not
earn
saying
it.
is like what I don't want that I could see working, like builds
Yeah.
up in Doomsday, Secret Wars, introduce the variant, and then have him lead, and then almost Black Panther 3 being a spin-off of that,
Yeah.
and continue that variant. What I don't want them to do is have complete no setup whatsoever. Maybe he's like a variant in the background, and then he gets his own movie. That's what I don't want
No,
to happen.
right. I don't
Because
think
again,
that
logically, that wouldn't make sense. But if you build
Yeah.
him up properly, because I don't want them to just pluck him here and put him there. Here, you have a movie now. Again, logically, I just don't think that would work.
Yeah.
So it's just like, I don't like that. But if again, what you're saying, that I agree with. That I think you can make that work properly.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? With that in mind, though, Liz, as the article describes here, they already offered this role to somebody, and he turned it down because they didn't think it was the best idea for them to kind of be put in a position to follow up on Chadwick Boseman
I mean,
playing the character.
It's almost going to become like a
Yeah.
the best thing I can equate it to is like the Snyder cultists. There are going to be people that are just going to destroy whoever attempts to fill the shoes. And again, I can like I'm fine with it if it's a variant. It makes sense for the storyline. It makes sense if it's a completely different T'Challa. It's not our T'Challa, but some people won't be able to make that disconnect. Some people won't be able to see the difference there. So they're gonna be out for blood, and it's gonna be really stupid and ugly. Which is why, again, I think it's too soon to be talking about going back to the Black Panther storyline. But they have to keep things moving. They don't want to just drop this part of the franchise completely. So they have to figure it out. But either way, there's going to be growing pains, and there are going to be a lot of people that are unhappy. But I agree with John. Chadwick Boseman would not want that part to die with him. He was so proud to be a part of that. He was so proud to get this storyline into the MCU. Again, it's for the culture. It's for a whole other fan base. I saw it in theaters 6 times. It was one of the first Marvel films that I kept going back to see. It means a hell of a lot to me. So I understand they have to do what they need to do in order to keep it as a part of the MCU and you know, keep it as a part of the fold. But it's going to be a fine line that they have to walk, and they have to do things thoughtfully and but also in a way that makes sense. So
Mhm.
we'll see what happens. But again, I would love John David Washington. Somebody else said Aldous Hodge, who, you know, has a connection with Marvel already. So that would be great too.
Also a
Who did
DC
he
connection.
play again?
Yeah.
In
He was
Marvel.
in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Aldous Hodge was in
He was,
Oh, okay.
yeah,
No wonder I
yeah.
don't.
So he
I
would,
know.
and I love him. He would be great.
I
So
loved him as
again,
Hawkman,
Let's
but
get
yeah,
him as
and
Hawkman.
also perfectly happy with
Yeah.
M'Baku coming. Hello, with M'Baku being a variant.
I mean, just Winston. He was
but,
like,
but he
honestly, he
wouldn't
was my
make sense
favorite
because he's
character.
still M'Baku in our timeline. So again, give me Michael B.
Fuck it,
Jordan
just
back.
pull in Eddie Murphy. I don't give a shit.
No,
Fuck
oh
that.
my God,
I
stop.
want two
Give me
times the
Michael B. Jordan
Winston, two
back. He's
times the
already been
quality.
multiple Marvel characters anyway. So give me Michael B. Jordan back. I'm totally fine with that.
I mean,
you know,
look, I was gonna ask you guys because look, somebody, do you care
That's
to speculate who was offered the role and they said this is not a good
Maybe they
career
want to go with
opportunity
someone
for
like
them?
Chosen Jacobs or something.
I mean,
like
it could
someone
have been John David Washington. It could have been Aldous Hodge. It could have been some of these people that have already been named here in the chat.
I'm almost thinking,
It
was
could have
it
been your
Aaron
new Green
Pierre and
Lantern.
he's
It could, you know,
I'm
like,
just
Yeah.
like, I could have been Aaron Pierre, like exactly. But
Yeah.
I mean, he was already in a movie that took place in like an African, setting, so it works.
it could have been Denzel Washington, and Denzel Washington could have said, I'm happy to be in the film, but not that role.
I don't
you
think
know?
they would have.
I know. Again,
He
he's a
literally.
variant.
I think he just turned.
He could
I
be
think today's his birthday. Actually, I think he just.
he's
turned
a
70.
variant, so he can.
Did he? Oh,
We
nice.
could be any version. It could be any version of T'Challa. So who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, also in the article, they talk about how Ryan Coogler is going to actively be involved in the recasting process
Of course.
to ensure that everything will be handled with the utmost care and in consultation with Boseman's family. So Marvel did, like, it says in the article, they previously ruled out the idea of recasting, but now that they're moving forward with the story, I think they probably realized that long term, the way where they went with Wakanda Forever was maybe not the most sustainable route for like what they were trying to do with the story. And of course, the T'Challa character I think is too good of a character to just let it sit on the sidelines the rest of time. With that in mind, of course, you guys have mentioned it. There will be potentially some backlash around this. And so I pulled up this article on CBR as well, where they pulled in some social media reactions. Look, I for one think that's a lot of the overreaction is gonna be more limited to us super fans who live and die and breathe this stuff. I think the average person is gonna go to a movie and if they like the movie and say, oh, they recast a character, oh, okay, yeah, and then if you enjoy the movie and the character's done well and you get a great actor, like, look, whoever they bring into this role is gonna need to be like a Don Cheadle when he stepped into Rhodey, and he's gonna need to hit the ground running and immediately try to differentiate himself from like Chadwick Boseman's performance, but at the same time honor what he did and kind of build on top of it, but not try to like basically be Chadwick Boseman. But you need a talented actor all around to do that. Now, with that in mind, so far, people are reacting in all sorts of different ways. Like, I'll go through a couple of these reactions here. So this is the first one. It was like, there was a whole effing sequel about honoring his legacy. What are you effing thinking? So clearly, release Coyote versus Acme. I mean, okay, so they do not like the idea. They're still campaigning for that movie. Then Chloe slash Cheryl says, this is a really shitty thing to do. Hopefully they reconsider. It's again
Bro,
the
how
same
many
idea.
flags do you have in your fucking username? Like, goddamn.
All the different causes that she cares about. Then Slice of Anime saying, they got the kid. Just wait 10 years and you'll have him back. Until then, make other characters that audiences like. It's a point, but I mean, still, that kid isn't like, he's meant to be what, like 7 years old in the second movie or something. Like, he's not that old. Like, you're gonna get a teenage T'Challa at best, and it's not.
Yeah, I think he was 5 or 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the people have speculated maybe they'll like run time through him like the way they did with Ant-Man in the next Avengers movie.
Right.
Well,
again, you're never going to please everybody, and the people that are really going to have the hardest time with it are the people that have only ever seen Black Panther. They haven't watched any of the
Right.
other TV shows. They haven't watched any of the other films. So
Yeah,
they
like
can't,
Black
they don't
Panther was a
understand.
character in media for a long time before
Right. So
Chadwick Boseman.
they can't understand the variant connection. They can't understand the multi-universe thing. So those are the people that are gonna freak out the most. But at the same time, they're gonna go see the movie. So
They also but they also didn't read the article.
right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Hosea saying in the chat that hey, T'Challa is too important of a character to not recast, which I agree. I think it's the
Absolutely.
fact that
Absolutely.
yeah, it's you cannot just let that character sit on the sidelines, right? And then RJ here, I think Resident Justice. That's actually a really good name. One of the few good names you'll find on social media. Saying ultimately the right decision and one that should have been made back in 2021. They always should have recast the role, much like Hosea agreeing that hey, it's too important of a character. I think yeah, we're on the same page there. Now with that in mind, we got by the way Antonio rejoining the chat here. Thank you for coming back on. Saying there's a video where Christopher Nolan's talked about in the Tenet press tour that John David Washington, who could potentially be our next T'Challa, was potentially going to be a Green Lantern, and Christopher Nolan endorsed the idea. So that's cool. And Caleb saying, look, like saying Chadwick Boseman is the only T'Challa there can ever be is like Jared Leto can be the only Joker. I don't know if that's an apples to oranges comparison necessarily, but I see the spirit of what you're saying. But look, to anybody who is really not into the idea of recasting T'Challa, I'll just point out this one line from the story where Jeff Snyder said that he's been told the door is firmly open for T'Challa to be recast via the magic of the multiverse. That pretty much is the key point here. That they're not going to try to bring back T'Challa from the dead. They're not going to try to age up his son. They're
not going to pull a Jonathan Kent with T'Challa's kid because that would be fucking stupid.
Well, listen, they are doing Marvel Zombies, but that would be in really poor taste.
Wow. No. Ouch.
I'm just saying.
That's damn. Just saying. Ouch.
Just saying. They put it out there, not me.
I mean, Enterprising saying there's an Illuminati variant of T'Challa in the comics. Yeah. There is. Yeah. I know that we were all speculating if we were going to get that in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but we didn't. So.
But no, we just got, Mr. Fantastic turning into Muschietti and, Professor X getting fucking yeeted again. Whoops-a-doodles.
Yeah, I have very mixed feelings about that movie still to this day. But hey, let's kind of bring this full circle. If you guys had to recast T'Challa, or in this case, recasting is maybe not even the right word. If you had to cast a new T'Challa, do you have a name in mind that you would think is the best?
I have one.
Yeah,
Adam Sandler.
Come on, I would like on a more serious note.
I can't with you.
Honestly, there's a lot. I think Trevante Rhodes could be a good one if they're going for an older T'Challa. He could be really good.
It's actually that's a pretty good
well. Like I said, if it's a variant, the possibilities are endless.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys mentioned something with John David Washington, Aldous Hodge. I mean, Michael B. Jordan being T'Challa. That's definitely an interesting thing to do. I don't think they would do that, but that would be a cool idea. Winston Duke just playing two roles. I wouldn't mind that. But like,
they could make it really funny. That's for sure.
Can you imagine when he walks up and he's like M'Baku and then they stare each other down and then it's like all of a sudden the thing that we're it creates like this weird situation where obviously he's T'Challa in one world and M'Baku in the other, especially given how the first Black Panther movie went. But look, Antonio Baker puts it nicely here. Let Ryan Coogler cook. Okay, thank you, John. Yeah. Thanks for adding to the collection.
I love it.
Let Ryan Coogler cook, but please do not have some time jump that will mess up the movie before the movie even comes out. I do not think they're gonna do that. I think they're most likely just gonna bring in
Endgame.
Yeah. Again, they're already fucking with variants. They can't be fucking with timelines on top of it. It's the variants are
the sacred timeline.
People.
Well, yeah, I think they're.
Would be funny.
Yeah, it's sacred until it's not.
Would be really fucking funny now that he's like kind of wiped clean of everything. Bring back Jonathan Majors as Black Panther.
Come on, dude, really? Anyway,
That would be a fucking crazy thing to do.
And that's why they're not calling you for any ideas
Exactly.
there, Johnny boy.
John is full of terrible ideas today. But Enterprising was asking an interesting question before we finish up MCU Weekly. They were asking how young should the X-Men be is the question, because we were talking about, of course, Cynthia Erivo wants to play Storm and potentially
Yeah.
that's her dream
True.
role.
I was thinking of that.
I am uncanny X-Men, 90s X-Men all day, every day. So I don't think any of them, they shouldn't be a set age limit. They should all have the various ages that they were. They're all in different in time. They're all in different places in their lives.
I think some should be vets, some should be new. I think if that would be
a full circle moment, though. I wouldn't mind
next
that.
time, baby.
Next time, baby. I'm gonna be Black Panther, baby. Yeah, that would be so good.
That would be funny, but
yeah.
I think personally, what they should do, they should have like the first class, like Beast, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Angel. You have those guys be like the vets, and then you have like guys like Gambit and Rogue. You have like those types of characters be like younger, and then you can have like and then give Wolverine a rest. Just have him just like he's in his room. Like that's it.
He's on another mission fighting the Hulk over here.
And so, I think just not have him there. And then but like do stuff like that, like have like the first class be like around the block.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of like meant or like and then like have like an older Iceman and then stuff like that. Even though he's kind of like the younger brother, just like of the group, just like have him be like slightly like he's like kind of the intermediary. Like you have like the mentors be like in their like mid to late 30s, and then maybe he's like in his early 30s or late 20s, and then have the rest of them be like early teens or late teens, early 20s, depending on the character. I think they should do something like that. That would be really cool.
Yeah, because Enterprising in the chat was saying, how old are our vets then? In their 30s? Or
Wolverine's 200, but yeah, well, Beast, I believe Beast and Professor X are the oldest. At least that's how they've been kind of portrayed. So yeah, Professor X in his 60s, Beast in his 50s, and then the other ones, yeah, like early 40s probably, late 30s. Early 40s I think would be the best, because they're supposed to be like parental figures. They're supposed to have kind of been through it already.
I will say this though.
They're supposed to be kind of hardened.
One of the key things about the X-Men has always been that they're kind of set around like, the World War II era, the older generation. I'm like, if you bring them in from another timeline, do they also sort of have an alternate history to them? Or are you going to go with a version where they're like, for example, Magneto, he grew up not in a camp in World War II, but instead of being somebody who hates the Nazis, there's some other tragedy, some other Holocaust.
I feel like you can't. Nando V Movies had a really good video on this. I'll be like, you have to stick with the Holocaust thing, because that's the only thing to make that character work. So just have it be like mutants don't age as fast, or maybe he found a time portal. Like you could do like a million different things to have that work, and have him be like not super old, like Ian McKellen levels of old, but like you could do a lot of things. You can do a lot of things, because the basis of Magneto's character is he literally became the very thing he sort of destroyed. He is literally mutant Hitler. That's the whole point. So the fact, and if you take that away from his character, it wouldn't work as well.
Yeah, then what do you have?
To make that.
No, I hear you. I'm just saying
that motivation.
Then I'm saying, how do the mechanics of this soft reboot work? Does that mean that all of a sudden
fucking anything time portal?
No, but also I'm just saying that. Well, yes, Caleb was saying time machine, but I'm just think about it though. If this Magneto does kind of, or his backstory does still include the Holocaust, then you're still talking like, look, the 1940s were a lot far, like long. It's been 20 years since the first X-Men movie came out. Back then, 1940s were 60 years ago. Now the 1940s are 80 years ago. Do you really want an 80-year-old Professor X and
No,
Magneto?
that's what I'm saying. Like,
You know,
maybe what they can do is like they introduce X. They introduce like the Magneto, Professor X thing, like in like the 60s, and then they have their thing. They have their skirmish. They make their own.
You mean like make these period move films because in the new timeline
Make them period
they
films,
were part of the past of the MCU,
and then
except,
have them make the like for this before it like gets rebooted. Have them like, oh, it on this other world it took place in like the 60s and 70s, and then due to multiversal time hullabaloo, then you can make it so that somehow Magneto still a Holocaust survivor and Professor X got on our world now, and now they have X-Men that are that are younger and all this other stuff. But yeah, I think like just make it period movies, because like I feel like that's too integral to Magneto's character to shy like, oh, he was it was the fucking I don't know. I don't even know what you would replace. There's nothing
I'm saying you maybe do an alternate history of this different world. It's hard to. You can either do what you suggested, where either these are period movies, like what they did with the the second trilogy of films, like they took place in the 60s and 70s and stuff. Or you have them sort of start off there, but then they get pushed into our timeline. Because, for example, Fantastic Four is in retro-futuristic sort of a film, but it takes place in a different world. So while it looks like the 60s, it doesn't mean necessarily in their world that it is the 60s. It just looks like, to us, it's the 60s. So maybe you do something like that because they're coming from a different timeline. The way things played out there was different from us. You know what I mean? Like the time doesn't have to match up. Either you do it that way, or you change up the history of MCU proper, and then you'll have to do the whole these movies take place in the past, because like I said, you can't really have an 80-year-old Professor X to kick off the mutant saga. That seems a little it's hard for me to kind of reconcile that. Oh, well, I mean, he's definitely aged
poor
into
guy.
the role.
Yeah, he's I don't think.
I mean, Enterprising saying
anymore.
that Logan did go to war with Cap in some iterations. Yeah, I mean, I would love to see those crossovers. Maybe that's what they do here. Maybe you just sort of. Maybe this is not so much a soft reboot. It's more of a much harder reboot than we realized, because they had to reconcile.
I mean, we've already got a Gambit ready to go. So.
He made a name for himself.
I mean, if we've got a Storm now with Cynthia, we've already got a Gambit on deck, so let's just fucking do the thing. Why not? Let's just go balls to the wall here.
Yeah. I mean, and also, I'm guessing that they're gonna want to cast, actors who are much younger than what we got before, because, for example, as Antonio is pointing out, I think Sadie Sink was being considered for Jean Grey recently. That was the rumor that was going around.
I hate a young Jean Grey, though. I really do. But
it's so
brings out some creeper aspects with Professor X. Whoops-a-doodles. Another whoops-a-doodles. Yeah. I mean, it's literally
Rogan
literally
Magneto,
comic book canon that Professor X was perving on a minor Jean Grey. So yeah.
Well, so is Magneto with Rogue too. So it's it's not great. That's why we're sticking with the uncanny.
By the way, Antonio, is Scott Eastwood in his 30s? I feel like he was in his 30s like 10 years ago.
No, he is.
He's 38.
And he would be great. He would be a great Cyclops, honestly. He really would.
I remember Nando V Movies has a really good video on like who he cast. Like, I know he had like Tom Hopper as Cyclops. I think
like Garrett,
although he can't do it now, but Matthew McFadden as Professor X, and
Garrett Hedlund would be good.
Yeah.
We've got a couple options out there.
I would say the only man I want, if they do have to make another Wolverine,
that's a good
point.
The
only person I would want is Jared Keeso. Jared Keeso is the only man for the job, and I will die on that hill. So, but that's just me. Well, get an actual Canadian. Don't bring in an Australian. Get that the fuck out of here. Bring in a real Canadian for.
I don't know. It's gonna be hard to top what Hugh Jackman did, quite frankly. But
I know.
But
there are gonna be a lot of people saying you can't recast that either. So let's just go for it, gang. Let's just go for it.
I do appreciate though that they're looking to cast, like, if you're talking about Sadie Sink as being sort of that reference point for the age group that you want to go with for like
Mm-hmm.
Jean Grey and like the
Early
Cyclops and
20s.
stuff, then you're looking at basically Spider-Man, right? Like Tom Holland, that's the generation that they're going to be a part of. So if that is anything to go by, of course they haven't officially announced any X-Men movie yet, even though we know we're going to get one post Avengers, Secret Wars, but nothing is official. Kevin Feige hasn't said that. We don't have a release date. They still have plenty
Matthew
of time to make this.
McConaughey as Cyclops.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
Maybe in like
Yeah, then we'll get Woody
2005.
Harrelson as Professor X. Give me a break.
Oh my
Oh,
god, that would be
God.
amazing.
can't.
Just like Professor X,
stop.
like fucking just balls. To
You
the
know what?
wall
Then we'll pull
high
in
all the
Ted
time.
Danson as Magneto. Let's just fuck around. and
Jared
find out
Kiso, he's famous from Letterkenny.
Letterkenny.
Is the main thing
So
that he's
good.
from.
So good.
Antonio's saying maybe Magneto is a grandchild of Holocaust survivors. Maybe you could do with something that's
Okay,
Again,
that's
it
that's
just
fair.
I don't think
It's
that
not as
would
visceral
work.
though.
No,
No.
it wouldn't work. It still
It
wouldn't
won't have
work.
the same-
But
yeah.
look, the problem that issue of the time thing is not even an issue that has nothing to do with the MCU. That's just a simple passage of time situation, right? Like that's why when they did the X-Men First Class and everything, they decided to then make those movies like period pieces, 70s, 60s, like even the 80s to a certain degree. Like they did not want to do those movies in the present day like the original trilogy did, because they were like, well, if you want to stay true to the whole Holocaust origin of Magneto, then these characters, we can't set them in the present day. I mean, obviously they went with a younger Professor X anyway, but I'm just saying Fox made the decision to make them period pieces. I feel like if that's the direction they're gonna go in here, then maybe in the Mutant Saga we sort of just change up the MCU's history a little bit, and like you guys have been suggesting, maybe the Wolverine runs across Captain America. Magneto, might have met Steve Rogers back in the day when Steve Rogers was maybe the one who liberated the camp that he was being held at. Like you could do those kind of crossovers and still have like Captain America, the First Avenger, and those kind of movies still be canon to the MCU, but then all of a sudden the history of the MCU is now different because the X-Men have existed, and you sort of have these stories that take place in the present day, and then you have stories of the X-Men, the OG team, and then the younger team that then eventually becomes like the veterans of the present day. Maybe you do it that way. I'm just suggesting. I mean, look, this is the kind of problem that Kevin Feige and company have to solve. It's not for us to solve, but speculating just from where we stand today, I think there have options. Unfortunately, there's not many good options, but because you have to kind of bend backwards to figure a lot of this stuff out. No, come on, seriously. Yeah, Adam Sandler can play everybody in the New Mutant Saga, but
Everybody, let's go. I gotta fight the Hulk. We gotta fight the Hulk, guys. Come on, Professor X. We gotta do this. Schlink. Let's go, guys.
Northern
Anyway.
Alberta, Canada. Sorry. Well, you know what? I will say this though: it's gonna be pretty hard to do Storm better than Halle Berry did. And as good as Cynthia Erivo might be.
Hey, because as we remember,
Would it be
what
harder
happens
to do it
what happens
than
when a
Halle
frog gets struck by
Berry?
lightning? What happens to everything else? What a great line. I mean, I like the original X-Men, but oof, some of that dialogue.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's hard to replace Halle Berry, but anyway.
Is
Look,
it though?
Is it
Yes,
Is it though?
it is.
She was
Yes,
also
it
a
is.
Bond girl, Dan.
I will
Apparently that's a
unabashedly die on that
fucking
hill. I
thing.
do
Apparently
not
that's
care.
Really important. Apparently
I do
that's
not care. You
important.
know what? The 90s, the Bond movies might not have been great, but the Bond girls certainly were. And with that in
Denise
mind,
Richards was a Bond girl, okay? So it's not, you're not really.
that one was hard to believe because she was meant to be playing like the smartest
scientist,
person in the room.
like, oh, Denise Richards.
I was like,
playing a
not
scientist.
anything against Denise
Get
Richards.
the fuck out of here with the Bond girls. Stop it.
Dude, the Bond girls in the 90s were fantastic. You had Michelle
my
Yeoh,
God.
you had Denise Richards, you had Famke Janssen. Of course, you mentioned Halle Berry.
They weren't good characters, but they were nice to look at. Like
that
Okay.
was the
Thank you, John.
point. That's all they're
That was
used
the point.
for,
That was
gang.
well, that's not.
I mean,
all
but
they
then
were
again,
used-
Ana
that's
de
not all
Armas,
Bond
Eva
movies were
Eva
used in the
Green.
90s, but not before and after. But that's
Yeah. I think that's okay. Well,
Sure,
guys,
thing.
let us
They're
know
gonna
that.
cast an Ugo as a fucking Bond girl next.
well, they're got to be hot, but it's like they're also
Alright.
capable characters. It's just people refuse
So-
to believe that, and that's the thing.
Let us know in the comments below what you think about the X-Men situation. How would you tackle the conundrum that is like you stay true to the origin of the X-Men, and yet you make them work in the 21st century? And how do you bring them into the MCU? Would you recast T'Challa? And if so, then who would you bring in, even if it's a multiverse variant? And then, of course, do you like the idea of Cynthia Erivo potentially playing the new Storm in the MCU? With that in mind, guys, of course, we'll be back with another MCU Weekly next week. DCU Daily will be back tomorrow. We are not done yet, though, because we... Thank you, John. The hater mode is turned to the max today.
I'm sorry. It's fucking 1:30 in the morning. I'm tired.
Got the grumpy glasses on.
I'm tired, bro. Like, come on.
I know.
We're doing
I
this
know
at
you're
noon
tired.
tomorrow. I'm not doing this fucking.
That's because we watched Creature Commandos at 3 a.m., dude.
Fine by me. I didn't tell you to stay up after the show yesterday.
But
hey,
I
look,
was up until 2:30, so like.
It's time for the news. Let's get into the news in Hollywood today because there's a lot going on, of course, and we want to give you that daily dose of news. So let's dive into that right now. And with that, let's hit that intro.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. Number 2.
All right, Mr. I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding. You're kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne. I like that. You're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right, well, it's time for the news. We usually do this at the top of the show, but today we literally just flipped the script because we're going to do the news last. Now, of course, we are here to talk about the news, and I've decided we're going to probably just do it a little more quick hit style. Let's dive into it that way, and, we'll go through them a little bit faster than we usually do. So to start things off, I want to go off the top with you guys, and...
don't care. Move on.
This makes me so happy. I love it. I think it's great.
I'm just curious because at the Golden Globes, Vin Diesel shows up on stage. He looks at Dwayne Johnson in the crowd. He says, "Hey, Dwayne," and then all of a sudden, it's reignited what seemed like they buried the hatchet. They were happy. They were going in their own separate directions.
I thought they
That's
still
what it
hated
seemed like,
each other.
because they did that. Because look, I do remember that they did that before Fast 10 because that's how The Rock then had a cameo in the end credits because he's doing a spin-off with Jason Momoa's character and then might be back in like the mainline 11th movie. So I thought it was done and dusted. They were like, we got this. It's buried. But here we are. Apparently, Vin Diesel then posted a photo, the old photo with The Rock, like, this is Brazil, like from Fast 5. And, hey, Dwayne. And now, I mean, is this feud back on? What is going on here, Liz?
They've got the next movie coming out soon. They have
don't turn your back on family.
They have the next movie coming out soon, so they gotta start with the marketing early, right? So they have the attention somehow.
Yeah, for after Vin Diesel got fucking accused of like sexual battery or whatever the fuck it was.
I didn't say he was a great guy. Didn't say didn't say he was a nice guy, but
I mean, I'm into it. I like it. I'm like, bring it on.
You heard it here first. Dan loves the beef.
I do like beef every once in a while. I'm more of a chicken kind of guy. I like white meat over red meat, but it is what it is. No, never mind. Liz is like, what are you talking about? Anyway, let's keep moving along.
Nope, skip this one. We don't care
all
about
right,
this
hey, James Mangold has got a new Star Wars movie coming up,
James
and
is an idiot.
He said there's a few things in here. Guys,
No.
let me actually spell this out for you because you might be a little interested in knowing that this movie is going to take place 25,000 years before the other movies, and not only that, but according to I think production production listing in the it's the Film and Television Industry Alliance, it says that they're gonna start filming this in December of 2025. Now, literally, like the last 6 Star Wars movies they've announced have been canceled or taken off the release schedule
like
before
Simon
they even got into
Kinberg's
production.
10 to 12 trilogy. Yeah, okay, that's definitely happening.
So I'm like, yeah, is this gonna even make it to production by the time we get
Probably
to
not.
December? Like, is this
Probably
happening?
I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. I don't think this is going to be mega. Even if it does, it's a cool idea. It's definitely a cool idea.
It's the Dawn of the Jedi, I think, is the tentative
Dawn of
name
the
for it.
Jedi. It's based on a comic book. It's roughly based on a comic book of the same name. It's a cool idea. It's just I don't care about Star Wars anymore. So like whatever.
It would be cool if it wasn't 25,000 years, but it makes no goddamn sense.
I'm okay with it because then you're not handcuffed to anything, story-wise or canon-wise. You can literally do whatever you
2,000
want.
years and it would work. 25,000. It's just like Dune. 10,000 years. It's so
the scale of it,
stupid.
maybe,
It's so stupid.
Look, I'm thinking James Mangold can make a good movie. He has done it with Logan. As long as this movie gets off the ground, I wouldn't mind going to see it. But given the recent, record that they've had with Star Wars movies, where Kathleen Kennedy just can't seem to agree with any of her directors, with Patty Jenkins,
there's not enough
Kevin
self-insert
Feige,
characters for Kathleen Kennedy. So
Taika Waititi. There's all these people have come and gone. I mean, it just even now the Daisy Ridley movie got taken off the release schedule. The only thing we know that's happening for sure is the Mandalorian and Grogu.
They don't care about movies. They don't care about shows. All they care about is what can we sell toys. That's what matters to them. So you're gonna greenlight anything that can get them more toys. That's it.
There is, I don't know if this is gonna be like what it's based on, but there is a Dark Horse comic line called Dawn of the Jedi. Ran for about 15 issues.
I think it's meant to be almost an adaptation of that. That's the rumor.
Almost an adaptation, maybe loosely based, but John Ostrander wrote it, and it apparently got a lot of good reviews, so you can go get that so if you want to know that vibe of what they're going for, by the way.
Yep. Well, if they ever get this movie off the ground, that is. But a show that has already gone off the ground because it's done filming its first season is the one that Andy Muschietti spent all his time this past year working on before potentially working on a Batman movie. We'll see which way he's leaning tomorrow. But he did say recently in the same interview where he was talking about Batman Brave and the Bold that Welcome to Derry is being planned for 3 seasons on HBO.
That means it's gonna get 1 season.
Season 1 takes place in 1962, Season 2 takes place in 1935, and then Season 3 takes place in 1908, which seems weird because it's like they're traveling back in time each season, or is that like more of an anthology series?
It's an anthology thing. So it seems like we're kind of get more of a vibe that was in the original book, because the original book took place in the 50s. So it seems like with season 1, we're going to get more of that vibe, even though it's not those characters that were in the book. So we're going to get more of that vibe, and then we're going to get I think this is a good idea for an anthology. Like, I still want to see, because I remember I don't know if it was Cary Fukunaga. I don't know what script it was, because there was Cary Fukunaga's script, there was Gary Doberman's original script, there was a ton of scripts, but there was a scene that Andy Muschietti claimed he filmed, but we never saw it. He released a picture of like Pennywise, like before he got like a final form. He was just like kind of this red monster. But the whole thing that started, I don't know if it was in the book or not, but it was essentially a scene that started like the connection between the town and Pennywise, like in the early days of like the 1600s. I hope we get this scene in the show, where it was like a mother was gonna go check on her crying baby, and she sees her crying baby like about to get eaten by Pennywise, and she decides to just close the door and walk away, and that starts the pact between Derry and Pennywise of him like taking children every 27 years of like, okay, we'll feed you and we just like won't bother you type of thing. And that's what started this whole thing. It's a very cool scene. It's a very disturbing scene. So I do hope that they make it into that, makes it at least into this, then, because I mean, he promised a director's cut like fucking 10 years ago.
Oh yeah,
so like,
well,
what feels like 10 years ago. But I remember like a year later, he's like, yeah, I'm doing a director's cut. And it's going to include the scene. We never got that. I do hope they include that because it's just like so disturbing, and it's so like, and it like makes a lot of sense. Because I know that there was another scene in the Cary Fukunaga script that took place in the 1800s where Pennywise was like a piano player, and he starts like a riot for like no reason, like causing chaos in Derry. So I do hope that this definitely like brings in like those moments, like the black spot as well, because there's a lot of lore. There's so like half the book is like the lore.
I mean,
between the lore of Derry and Pennywise and all that shit. So I hope they just go with that. It's really interesting.
It's going to be like I mean, they're going to spread this out. Obviously, 3 seasons of television is a long time to cover all of that, you know, lore and canon from the book. But
right,
I just hope that Andy Muschietti, you know, builds in enough time for himself to do the Batman movie, because that's what I'm personally more interested in. But look, the It movies made quite a bit of money for Warner Brothers, and that's why they're making the show. It could potentially be a big franchise for them. But look, if the first season doesn't do very well, then it doesn't matter that they plan 2 more seasons. It may not happen. But trusting Andy Muschietti to do well with this, you know, because he did so well with the movies, I'd imagine that the show is gonna be a hit. And hey, now we know that there is a 3-season plan, and we know when those seasons will take place. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I'm sure like Liz doesn't have a ton to say about this, because you're just like,
no, I mean, I like the
I
like the idea of going backwards, essentially, which is
Yeah.
really, really interesting. I think nobody else has really done that, so that intrigues me. But again, as you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of horror or scary films in the first place. Like, I did see the other 2 It films, but doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be flocking to this TV show. So that's it.
Yeah, that's fair, completely fair. But hey, you know what?
I was intrigued by the teaser, so I'm definitely.
It's interesting. Exactly. I enjoyed the teaser. I'm like, look, as somebody who's not even a big fan of the movies per se, the show intrigues me enough to like, maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'll give it a shot. Now, of course, as far as movies and TV shows go, last year, starting a couple of years ago, a bunch of classic Disney characters have now ended up in the public domain, including Winnie the Pooh, and of course the latest ones included Mickey Mouse himself, you know, the Billy Steamboat, Steamboat Billy rather, and Popeye. Yeah, so now it looks like we're getting all these horror remakes, or not remakes, but these horror movie adaptations of these classic characters like Peter Pan. So now we have a first look at Captain Hook in Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, which is set in the Ponyverse, which is amazing name. And it follows Peter Pan as a demented child napper, hell-bent on sending young boys to Neverland, which is like, yeah, it's
I mean, that's
crazy.
What it was in the original book.
It was, but I'm just like, it's so visceral. Like, I get it, but like, this is gonna obviously be over the top horror. And then the idea of like Tinkerbell is fed heroin by Peter Pan, which she calls
it's called pixie dust. How long did you take to think of that one?
Yeah, I was like, they just were like, okay.
Like,
it's like,
I mean, this stuff is garbage, but like, I'm probably gonna watch it anyway, because it's just like I love like trashy. Like, I love schlocky, trashy cinema like this. It's just great. It's just like, this is like, it's just like, you don't have to make a horror version of the book, because the book is already horror. Like, it's already fucked up shit. Like, you don't need to like make him look like this. In fact, Guillermo del Toro actually had an idea for like, you know, I forget what it was called, but it was like
Bambi the Reckoning. I want to see that one.
Yeah.
Pinocchio Unstrung. Oh my god.
And then we have but yeah, I think Guillermo del Toro wrote a script.
Universe Monsters Assemble.
About like Captain Hook was like, he was like a detective, and he was like trying to find like a serial killer, and who was called Peter Pan, and it was definitely like more of like a modern. It would have been actually interesting, because it would have been Guillermo del Toro and not you know, this crap. But it, like, the idea is there, but it's just like, you just need a better filmmaker than this guy.
No, I agree. And it's like, Caleb is like, it's pizza flavored garbage I love. I'm like, that's great. I can't wait for the Ponyverse Monsters Assemble movie, which is apparently coming out in 2025. I'm like, that looks fantastic. Can you imagine it's gonna be like Winnie the Pooh saying monsters? Like I can't wait for that. That'll be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're just maximizing the opportunity that they have here. And even though these movies will probably be terrible, I can't wait to see at least the trailer.
Y'all enjoy that. I will not be watching any of it.
Now, if sometimes they release the trailers on YouTube, actually they always do, but now they also release them on like Instagram, they release them on Threads, they also release them on TikTok. But TikTok, even though this is not really movie news, I think it's movie related because a lot of movie studios have started to do marketing that ties into TikTok and really have a strategy for TikTok.
Nature is healing.
It looks like TikTok just recently announced that they will indeed shut down on January 19th in the US unless the Supreme Court strikes down or postpones the law enforcing it to be sold. So I just wanted to get your opinions on a yes or no would do here. Do you think TikTok is going to still be around in the US after January 19th?
No, and good. Nature is healing.
I
enough
agree
with
with
the
you
brain
guys.
Rot. Enough with that shit. And then, as an ultimate fuck you, bring Vine back.
Caleb is like, God is good, love is life, TikTok is shutting down.
I mean, we have YouTube Shorts, we have Instagram, we have Facebook Reels. It's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Well, hey,
now
you
we'll
know
just
what?
have Mark Zuckerberg stealing your information instead of the Chinese government.
I'm of two minds on this one, but I agree. We're probably not going to have it after the 19th. But it has done some positive things for some people. It has shed light on people's small businesses. I have ordered things from small businesses via TikTok. My uncle has over 100,000 followers on TikTok. Not that he's trying to sell anything. He's not. He doesn't monetize on it at all. But he has made connections with people across the globe through it. And that's why he maintains the channel at this point, is to keep those connections and to check in with people that he's met. So it's, it is what it is, but we have a completely different version of TikTok than what China gets, and that's a big part of the problem. But it's also a problem that we created ourselves. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's good sides and bad sides as there are to most things in life, and if the ruling stands, then January 19th is your last day to be on TikTok if you're in the US. I mean, I guess you can always try using a VPN, and I don't know, maybe does your account still stay active? We'll see. That's another question, right? Like, are you gonna basically have your accounts deleted if you're in the US and no longer, or is it just you can't access your account anymore? It's like a bit of almost like a way of censorship.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how that's gonna all play out too. Like, maybe you just can't post anything anymore, but you can see other stuff. I don't know.
Like, maybe they'll send that email saying like you can now delete your account or choose to keep it around, but you just won't be able to access it. We'll archive it or something like that. That would be interesting, right? Because part of the reasoning for doing this for the U.S. government is they don't want the Chinese to like steal our privacy data and all that stuff. Which, look, I wouldn't be surprised if that is what's been happening this whole time. But
yeah, Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all those other just American people will steal your information and sell it to the Russian black market. So it's fine. Hardcore freedom units will steal your information instead of the Chinese. So it's fine. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Yep. Well, but he's like, but Enterprising is like, yeah, TikTok can be shut down, but Facebook will stay. That new change with regards to the community notes and getting rid of all the fact checkers, I just don't get it. I get like they're like, oh yeah, the wind is swinging in the particular direction, so we can get away with firing a bunch of people and going with a cheaper option. But it's not necessarily a win for getting things right and not relying on community notes. But anyway.
Yeah,
hey,
but
we're here to talk about the movies.
But honestly, then we should be getting rid of X. We should be getting rid of Facebook.
All of that stuff. I mean, but you know what? It's our choice.
They're all toxic in their own way.
We can choose to stay off all those channels. Just stay on YouTube. Right. Just come and hang out with us. We'll just have these conversations. Like
we say as we're also streaming to Facebook, X, and Twitch.
Well, you gotta navigate the system. But you know what? Look, we won't have our TikTok account after the January 19th because if you can't access it, then we won't keep up with it. But hey, with that in mind, let's get back to talking about the movie, shall we? And let's end the news on a brighter note. And that is, of course, today was the 70th birthday of J.K. Simmons. And to be quite frank, The man still looks almost exactly like that he did 20 years ago. He has not aged at all. In fact, if anything, he's aged in the other direction. He's jacked as ever.
I mean, look at him in Red 1. Goddamn.
I know, right?
Yep.
Look at him here. Like,
yeah.
10 years.
I mean, that was
now,
what, 10 years ago now?
11 years ago now.
Yeah.
Great. I mean, J.K. Simmons is one of the absolute treasures and of Hollywood and
thank
cinema
God
in
for those
general.
Spider-Man movies, because if it wasn't for those, we wouldn't have gotten because he was just like a character, not even a character actor.
He's
he
the
was
yellow
just
peanut
in
M&M.
commercials, and he was in commercials. He was Peanut M&M, and he was also the
Still the peanut M&M.
AMC TCM guy. Like he would announce the movies for AMC back when it was like a TCM type channel. So I think that's what it was. So yeah.
And by the way, Jose is saying also the same day as Elvis, but no, Elvis's birthday was actually technically yesterday.
Yeah.
And so today was, a birthday for J.K. Simmons. Yes, back-to-back days, but I hear what you're saying. But yeah, it's an eventful month of birthdays. It was my birthday earlier this month, so I consider it to be a pretty special month.
The same month as John Carpenter too.
Yeah,
pretty banger.
It's a first month of the year, and you got a lot of significant birthdays, including it was the 90th, would have been the 90th birthday of Elvis Presley yesterday, the king of rock and roll, and of course today, the great J.K. Simmons celebrating his 70th birthday. I can't believe the man has turned 70. Like, do you think about it? He's years old, but you wouldn't be able to tell just by watching him, play any role today. And speaking of which, I think he's gonna be back in Spider-Man 4, so we'll see just how big of a role he has in that. Now, of course, with that in mind, I think Liz asking about Manos' question. Oh, Manos Time is in the chat. What were you asking, Manos? Let's see.
So his question was, there's ongoing drama on X saying that Gunn doesn't know how to write female characters, and since John had kind of touched on that a little bit when we were talking about Creature Commandos, I just thought maybe we wanted to add to that conversation before we signed off.
Yeah, I don't think he doesn't know how to write them. I think Nina Mazursky is more so the exception, not the rule, because he also wrote Gamora, he wrote Nebula, he wrote The Bride, he wrote, who else did he wrote? Fucking Cosmo is technically a female character, and she's awesome. Palm Clementif. What's in MCU? What's the
Mantis? You're talking about
Mantis.
Yes.
Mantis, Ratcatcher 2. Like, he's written a lot of great female characters. It just so happened that Nina Mazursky was kind of more of a plot device than not. But the thing is, we've also gotten The Bride, and she was a very well-rounded and great character, and Indira Varma did a great job. So I think with what we got with Creature Commandos, I think that was an exception, not a rule. I think James Gunn writes female characters just fine. It's just Twitter being Twitter, like always, having dumbass takes and having just the haven for the dumbest people alive, which is why I stay off that shit.
Yeah. I mean, look, Twitter takes are something that I don't pay a ton of attention to, because like you said, it's not really the
Shout
best
out
place
to the
be
people
looking
watching
for
on
good
X.
We do love you guys for stopping by. You're welcome to come over to
just don't
YouTube
be an
and
idiot.
take part in the chat, But hey, if you are here and you are watching, then make sure to hit that like button, because we do appreciate that. And if you are new to the channel, then hit that subscribe button, so that way you can come back and see our videos.
Ray J,
in your
you can go back watch what we were saying about Creature Commandos before for context what I was saying. Nina's she was fine. It's just like I feel like there could have been more. Again, you could just go back and watch what we were talking about with the Creature Commandos episode, because we shed light on why both of us, well, I was mainly talking about what Lizz agreed, why she was not as good as she could have been and not where we wanted her to be by the end of the season. So. Yeah.
And I will just add, as the only female on the panel here.
Yes, please. I didn't mean to mansplain. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's not that he doesn't write women well. It's that he's writing women from a man's perspective, and he's trying to keep them rounded. He's trying to give them complicated backstories, but you can't write what you don't know. So I can understand where the criticism would be coming from, but at the same time, it's not like he's trying to. I mean, he's not like exploiting them by any means either. You know what I'm saying? So I think he's just doing his best, really, and hopefully he's asking other women what.
Yeah, like
they
I
feel
just
the
like
take
hey,
is,
like he asked his
you
wife,
know?
like, "Hey Jen, can you come and look at this? Make sure it
Right,
actually
like
is,
I would hope
fine?"
it's a little bit of a collaborative effort in that regard. But if it's not, you know,
That's what I would do.
He's a man doing his best to write a lady.
I would
so
ask every woman.
We've had much worse in the past, you know.
If
so.
I was writing a script and it was heavily involved with women, I would ask every woman, and I'm like, please make sure I'm writing this okay. I would be so scared because I'm like,
Well,
that's
you know,
what I'm
'cause-
always worried about. I'm always worried about dialogue, and I'm always worried how I write female characters.
Listen,
I'm like, okay,
human beings are snowflakes. Every single one of us are different, be it man, be it female, be it, you know, androgynous, whatever.
It's tough.
So
it's tough.
you're never going to get it right to everybody's
gonna get it right.
satisfaction
It's still
regardless. So
But,
I
I'm
think
always
he does
scared
an
about
okay job at
Yeah, I
this
think he
point.
does a
He's been
good
doing all right.
that. I mean, it could be worse. It could be Michael Bay, like
Exactly.
you know.
Exactly.
It's sexually harass your actors to the point where they fucking quit. Anyway,
Good
Dan, you
question.
want to
though.
bring in
Thanks for
anything?
asking.
No, I
we're
mean,
done. We're done.
yeah. I was just gonna say, like, look, James Gunn gets more things right than he gets wrong. So,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to kind of point out again, Hosea, thank you so much for the compliment. We do appreciate that. And then Ray at Rager365 saying Gunn has said that he asked his wife for advice while writing his scripts. I mean, I'm sure he does.
See, that's
And
what
look,
I figured.
But look, you can ask, other women in your life for advice, and you still maybe don't end up writing the best story or arc for the character. It's fine.
Well, exactly. Because again, we're all different. We're all going to have our own opinions. We're all going to have our own life experiences that we pull from. So,
yeah.
you know,
and you can
just
still
try your best.
Yeah, you can just try your best. That's all we ask for. And look, the DCU is off to a great start. Creature Commandos is now in the books, and we are looking forward to
Put it in the
next
books.
thing, which is Superman. And of course, we'll be back here talking about DC tomorrow again with another episode of DCU Daily. As we are here 5 days a week, and Hosea, as well as everybody else in the chat, Antonio, Rager365, we had Hunter earlier, we got, I don't know if the Watcher stopped by at some point, Enterprising, Manos Time, Miraculous, of course, we
Main
also
Man dropped
Caleb. The main man was here for a little bit.
The Truth,
Earlier, Fiona was here for a bit.
The Truth was there for a little bit.
Truth, yep. I mean, we had Mr. Carter in there at the very beginning.
Yeah.
All you guys, Lex was here for a little bit. I don't know if you're still watching.
Again, thank you, AJ. Yep.
Absolutely, Chris
Y'all
was here,
are
Miraculous. Manolo,
Chris,
everybody.
Zostek,
Yep.
Caleb, just
The
really
main man is still
hammering it
here. Thumbs up to you too, main man.
Caleb is just like honka
My man.
honka. I'm gonna make sure, I am
I mean,
here.
We appreciate the interaction. That's what we're here for.
We
So
sure
we do
do.
appreciate that. Now, of course, guys, as I said before, come back and check us out tomorrow. We'll be here with another episode of DCU Daily. Until then, of course, if you haven't already, go check out the finale of Creature Commandos, and then come back here. And I'm sure if you have any comments, you can drop them down below this video, or you can drop them in the live chat with us tomorrow. We'll be back, John and I, and then we'll be back again on Monday, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. Until then, Liz, John, have yourselves a great rest of your night, and wherever you guys are watching us, have a great rest of your day, or night, or evening, or afternoon. We'll see you next time.
Have a
Another
happy time
episode.
zone.
Good night,
Wherever
gang.
you are, good time. Don't say good morning. Don't say good night. Good time zone.
Good time zone. And we'll see you another episode of DCU Daily.